Are you ready?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studios, this is the Steve Malzberg Show. Be a part of the action by calling 855-777-9660. That's 855-777-9660. Or email Steve at malzbergshow@newsmax.com. Here is Steve Malzberg.
State of Florida versus George Zimmerman. Verdict: we, the jury, find George Zimmerman not guilty. So say we all four-person.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Steve Malzberg Show. That was Saturday night. The jury in Sanford, Florida, finding George Zimmerman not guilty. Not guilty of second-degree murder, not guilty of manslaughter, not guilty of either of those two. And the media assault has ensued against George Zimmerman. But more than the media assault, I want to talk to our next guest, Alan Dershowitz, about this. Hello, Alan. Thank you so much for joining us again today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. I was frantically trying to reach you this morning because as I woke up and I watched TV and I saw this headline news interview that CNN was previewing, which will run tonight, where the four prosecutors, the three who participated in the courtroom and Angela Corey were interviewed on headline news, and I was in a state of shock. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I want you to hear what Angela Corey had to say and also what Bernie de la Rionda had to say in answer to this question from the host. Here's cut number 30. This is cut number 30.
One word to describe George Zimmerman.
Murderer.
George Zimmerman.
Lucky.
All right, Angela Corey said murderer. And I couldn't believe what I was hearing.
Well, you know, Angela Corey is regarded as the most irresponsible and the worst prosecutor in Florida, and probably one of the worst prosecutors in the United States. She had this reputation well before this case, and that's why she was picked, because the governor of the state was determined to get a prosecution because there was so much pressure on him from groups around the state. So she picked Corey. Corey then submitted an affidavit which was, in my view, virtually perjurious to the court in order to get a second-degree murder prosecution. She, remember, is sworn to tell not only the truth, but the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And in the affidavit, she just simply omitted the fact that there was evidence that Zimmerman had bruises on his head, had bruises on his nose. She said that the father had identified the voice of his son on the tape without saying that he had first said, "I don't think that's my son." She simply suborned perjury, in my opinion, in submitting that affidavit. She overcharged. There was no case for second-degree murder here. She realized that, and that's why they sought a manslaughter prosecution and went so far as even to seek a child abuse charge and a felony murder charge. It was, in my 50 years of practicing law, I have never encountered a more irresponsible prosecutor. Then she fired one of her people who blew the whistle on her and told the truth about the evidence she was withholding.
Right, the IT gentleman who had turned over, who testified that he had texts and pictures from Trayvon Martin's cell phone, which they never told the defense about, and that guy was fired the day that the jury got the verdict.
Hey, she would have had me fired if she had the power to do that. She got on the phone after I criticized her early on when she submitted that, in my view, perjurious affidavit. She got on the phone and she called somebody at Harvard trying to reach the dean, and for a half an hour ranted and raved about me and how I should be fired. Of course, she was laughed at by the people who took the phone call. But she has a reputation for being a tyrant and not tolerating dissent within the office, doing it her way. And her way is illegal and unprofessional. And if there is a Justice Department investigation, it ought to focus on her conduct. After all, violations of civil rights are not committed when two people meet, both of whom are private citizens. That's not how civil rights are violated. Civil rights are violated by government officials, by police, by prosecutors, by others who have the power of government behind them. And so if the Justice Department does an investigation, it surely ought to include the misconduct committed by Angela Corey. She also, if there had been any violence, fortunately there hasn't been, mostly as a result of the really excellent behavior of the Martin family, but if there had been violence, she would be responsible for it because she raised expectations. She got a second-degree murder charge. She basically told the judge that there was a case here for second-degree murder, and there was never a chance of getting a second-degree murder a verdict in this case.
No, I know that. I agree with you 100%, and you've been on her from the beginning, and you've made remarks about her from on this show as well. But I, if you can, I would like you to speak. You say if there had been blood, she would have some on her hands because she raised expectations. How about now, in an interview that's going to air tonight, still not saying we have to respect the jury's verdict, he's innocent under our law system. She calls him a murderer.
Right.
What's your reaction to that? How unusual is that?
It's utterly irresponsible. Clearly, he is somebody who was acquitted by a jury on the ground of self-defense, and she shouldn't be going around second-guessing the jury verdict and calling him a murderer. He probably has a defamation action against her. She has no immunity as a prosecutor for appearing on television, and if I were his lawyer, I would think seriously about bringing a defamation lawsuit against her for calling him a murderer.
Yeah, well, that's that. I'm glad to hear that because I was in a state of shock, and I thought maybe I was overreacting. Maybe it's commonplace, but I just couldn't fathom.
No, it's not commonplace. Nothing she does is commonplace. Look, I've seen plenty of bad prosecutors, very good prosecutors. I've never encountered a prosecutor quite like her. And by the way, other prosecutors. I got an email recently from a former state attorney in Florida saying that she was an embarrassment to state attorneys, and that state attorneys all over Florida are appalled at her conduct in this case. I've gotten emails from judges, former judges, current judges, saying they've never seen misconduct of the kind that they've seen from this prosecutor and this prosecutorial team.
Yeah, and there will be sanctions. Just one more to reiterate: if in fact, God forbid, after tonight's TV show, the protests do turn more severe, would you say that she bears responsibility for that?
Well, I sure hope it doesn't turn severe.
Me too.
Remember, this is a woman who has still, as far as I know, still not yet spoken to the family of the Martins. Still never given them any solace. She hadn't, at least as of the last time she spoke on television. All she does is go on television and try to justify her conduct and try to attack Zimmerman, knowing that she has people out there who she's pandering to. She just hasn't done her job. And the idea that she hasn't sat down with the Martin family, if that's still true, I don't know if it's true, it was true until quite recently, it's just shocking. I mean, the first thing you would do as a prosecutor, the first thing you would do is seek a meeting with the Martin family and say how sorry you are that there wasn't a successful prosecution, that you didn't do your job well. By the way, I don't think any prosecutor could have secured a conviction in this case. You can't fill evidentiary gaps by rhetoric or by calling people names. The evidence in this case just didn't make out a case for murder, manslaughter, child abuse. It made out a case of self-defense. We still don't know who struck the first blow. We don't know who yelled, "Help me, help me." The evidence strongly suggests that Martin was on top and Zimmerman was on bottom and having his head banged against the pavement. If that doesn't raise a reasonable doubt about self-defense, I don't know what does.
Absolutely. One more, and you've explained, we don't have enough time to go into the whole thing, but I understand that the civil charges, if they're brought, there's a high bar, and it's usually brought against the police departments, as you said, very rarely, if ever, against a civilian. But having said that, given the fact that this is Eric Holder, and he's said again that an investigation is still ongoing. He hasn't poo-pooed it and said, no, we've gone there, done that, and we didn't see anything. So they're still looking into it. Do you think that he will bring one or will not bring one?
Well, I hope not. This is not an appropriate use of Justice Department authority. It's now been turned into a political football. The NAACP is objecting to the verdict. Where do they come off? Objecting to the verdict in a case, and they're joined by the Arab American Anti-Defamation League, who's partnering with them on this issue. You would think that these organizations really had more appropriate issues to focus on. This was just two people who got involved in an unfortunate situation. It's a tragedy. It's a traditional case of self-defense. It is not an appropriate subject either for the NAACP or for the American Arab Anti-Defamation League.
Alan, Jesse Jackson says Trayvon Martin is Emmett Till. So when that's the tone, that the left and the so-called civil rights leaders are taking.
If you can't tell the difference between a lynching and an act of self-defense, then you're blinded.
All right.
If you can't tell, then and you're also insulting the memory of Emmett Till.
I couldn't agree with you more. Thank you, Alan, so much.
Take care. Bye.
Take care. Alan Dershowitz, ladies and gentlemen. All right, we have much, much, much more ahead. Alveda King, Martin Luther King Jr.'s niece, will join us to talk about the NAACP, to talk about the Emmett Till comparison that Jesse Jackson and Mr. Crum, the family attorney, has made. But when we come back, Paul Callan, CNN legal analyst, former New York City homicide prosecutor and defense attorney, will join us right here on the Steve Malzberg Show.
Steve Malzberg Show.
Attention hip implant patients. Are you in constant pain? Have you received a letter from your doctor about your implant? Have you had or need a revision surgery? Do you have high levels of metal, chromium, or cobalt in your blood? Over 90,000 hip implant devices have been recalled due to defects and failures resulting in revision or replacement surgery. If you have a recalled hip implant, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Call 800-460-1530 to see if your implant is affected by the recalls. If you or a loved one has a defective or recalled hip implant, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Call 800-460-1530. That's 800-460-1530. Protect your legal rights today. Call 800-460-1530. This is an advertisement, not valid in all states. Paid non-attorney spokesperson. iLawsuit.com is an advertising group that represents lawyers advertising their services and is a free matching service for consumers. It is not a law firm or lawyer referral service.
If you or someone you love is struggling with addiction to alcohol or drugs, then you must listen to this message because there is hope. No matter what addiction you or your loved one is coping with, you are just one phone call away from real help. Recovery Hotline makes the healing process simple and affordable by matching people to fully certified and experienced inpatient facilities that are right for their personal situations. Call 800-668-1286 now. Don't wait another day. Money does not have to be an issue. Most insurance is accepted. Just call 800-668-1286 today. Recovery Hotline's mission is to help you or someone you love begin the healing process and get back a healthy and sober life. And we can even help with family interventions and travel arrangements. One phone call is all it takes to get back the life you or your loved one deserves. The call is free. The help is real. Call 800-668-1286. That's 800-668-1286. 800-668-1286. Again, 800-668-1286.
Hi, this is Mike Reagan. Folks ask me, what would Ronald Reagan do if he were with us today? I believe the first thing he'd do is stop Obamacare. Already it's in effect with higher taxes, hidden fees, skyrocketing insurance rates, big Medicare cuts, and some insurance plans are hit with a 40% tax. Protect yourself by getting the Obamacare Survival Guide. It's already a #1 New York Times bestseller. Newsmax says it's the best guide to the new law, giving you the strategies, tips, and loopholes you need to know. If you're insured on Medicare, a business owner, a medical professional, just about anyone, you need this book. Get the #1 bestseller, the Obamacare Survival Guide, at bookstores everywhere. Or get our special $4.95 offer and save $15 off the cover price by going now to Obamacare911.com. Obamacare911.com. That's Obamacare911.com.
150 million people suffer from headaches. All you want is for the pounding in your head to stop. Migralex stops the pounding. Migralex was developed by a neurologist and founder of the New York Headache Center.
I'm neurologist Dr. Alex Malzberg. After studying and researching the human brain for 25 years, I've developed Migralex, which eliminates pounding headaches. It works for my patients, and I'm so convinced it will work for you. I don't just guarantee it, I put my name on it.
Dr. Malzberg's Migralex gets rid of headaches fast without harsh caffeine, sodium, or preservatives.
Migralex works unbelievably fast, and it's gentle on my stomach.
Find out how to get your free bottle of Migralex. Call 800-532-2967. Plus, if you're one of the first 100 callers, you'll also receive the Migralex Quick Tips to Headache Relief absolutely free. That's 800-532-2967. Or go to migralexrelief.com. MIGRALEX relief.com. Or call 800-532-2967.
This is not your typical Screamfest talk show.
No.
This is the next generation of talk radio. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks. Welcome back, Steve Malzberg, and we are joined once again by our friend Paul Callan, CNN legal analyst, former New York City homicide prosecutor and criminal defense attorney at Callan, Costa Brady, and Brennan. Hello, sir.
How you doing today, Steve?
I'm doing fine. Unfortunately, we only have about 7 minutes, so I want to get to it. First of all, and when I say congratulations, I want to make it clear neither one of us are celebrating, but you did predict on CNN and on our show that there would be a weekend verdict, and once the jury had asked for a manslaughter clarification, I believe you also said that the verdict could come any time, and you were right on that count.
Yep, at least as far as that goes, I was, fortunately. But kind of like a doctor, diagnosing cancer. Maybe he's happy he got the diagnosis right, but it's a sad case all around nonetheless.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But let me ask you going forward. That's what I want to talk about with you is going forward. First of all, Eric Holder today said he made a speech to Delta Sigma Beta, and he said the Justice Department shares your concern. I share your concern. The department will conduct an investigation consistent with the facts and the law. That he said there's an investigation that's opened. Of course, we know that the FBI investigated racial overtones in this case for months ago, and found nothing. The trial they couldn't prove. Will a civil rights prosecution be forthcoming, do you believe, from Eric Holder?
Well, I found his remarks to be somewhat odd in that a jury has rendered a verdict in the case, and for the Attorney General of the United States to say, I share your concern about a jury verdict, it's kind of an odd thing to say. We have a country based on the idea that local juries are in the best position to decide cases based on the evidence that's presented to them. I mean, that was put in the Constitution by the Founding Fathers because they didn't want the federal government deciding cases or cases decided by popular vote. We decided to have a jury trial system. Now, on the other hand, it's certainly appropriate if the Justice Department has suspicions that the system was somehow rigged or handled inappropriately. It's perfectly proper for them to do an investigation, but I haven't seen any evidence of that. The FBI was actively investigating this case in conjunction with local prosecutors. I saw one account indicating that they had interviewed huge numbers of people in advance of the trial, and you can be sure they would have turned anything over to local prosecutors if they thought it was helpful to the prosecution.
With regard to any proof of racism or racial motivation or racial hatred, which is the elevated bar that the Justice Department would have to have proof of before bringing a case, correct?
Well, yeah, I think what people have to understand here is, and certainly, racial discrimination is illegal in the United States, and it should be prosecuted when there's an appropriate case. But in this case, the defense was self-defense, and that Zimmerman acted in self-defense when he fired the gun. So the Justice Department would have to prove two things. One, local prosecutors couldn't disprove the self-defense claim, and that really, the final encounter, that has nothing to do with whether there was racism or bias at the beginning of the incident. So they'll have an additional burden of proving that it was started by racial bias and then self-defense was inappropriate. But a jury has already said he acted in self-defense with this verdict. So I think it's a mountain the Justice Department is trying to climb here that's a pretty high mountain to climb up. Usually they do these cases, Steve, against local police forces like we saw in the Rodney King case, right, where there's a pattern of police abuse in the minority community.
And it's a government entity, right? It's a government entity, not an individual.
Right. Yeah, you've got to have an action under, they call it color of state law. Now, there is a law here that might give them a basis to investigate, and that is the gun that was used probably crossed state lines and was in interstate commerce. So they'll probably try to use that as a reason to say it's appropriate for federal investigation. But frankly, I don't know what they think they're going to discover that hasn't been discovered already.
And Paul, let me ask you. We're talking to Paul Callan, CNN legal analyst here on the Steve Malzberg Show. We only have a couple of minutes. I just spoke to Alan Dershowitz, your friend, and I asked him about Angela Corey, and I don't know if you heard this yet, but Angela Corey's on Headline News. It's going to be aired tonight. CNN's been airing it throughout the day, little snippets of it because they're the same company, and they did word association, and the host says to Angela Corey, George Zimmerman. She paused for about 15, 16 seconds and says, murderer.
Seriously, I didn't.
Absolutely. So what's your reaction to that?
That is shockingly inappropriate, unethical conduct by a prosecutor. And frankly, she might very well be sued for it, and properly so. You know, prosecutors get immunity when they're acting within the scope of their employment as prosecutors. But, you know, appearing on a TV show doing a word association game is not going to give her immunity. That's really stunning. I was very surprised, by the way, at the sort of vituperative sour grapes press conference that prosecutors did in this case after the acquittal. You know, usually prosecutors are very dignified, and they say we disagree with the jury, we're disappointed in the verdict, but we respect the process. They did a very extensive press conference in which they, you know, really went after Zimmerman quite personally.
And De La Rionda was shouting, "Who followed who? Who followed who?" Just like he was in the courtroom during the closing arguments.
Yeah, in all my years as prosecutor and defense attorney, I have never seen a press conference that vituperative after you know, a jury verdict has been rendered.
Paul, they're not only is the media going after him, but the prosecutors are going after him, and the so-called civil rights leaders as well. Paul, I thank you, and I hope I'm sure we'll speak again soon. And thank you very much.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure being with you, Steve.
Thank you, Paul. Take care. Bye. Paul Callan, CNN legal analyst, former New York City homicide prosecutor, criminal defense attorney at Callan, Costa, Brady, and Brennan. When we come back, a man who disagrees with me, Alan, Paul, a lot of people, but agrees with a lot of people as well. Dr. Boyce Watkins, finance professor at Syracuse University, founder of the Your Black World Coalition, and he thinks a travesty of justice occurred here. And we're going to talk about it with him. Then Andy McCarthy. We got Lee Wheel, Tamara Holder, Alveda King. Don't miss a second of the Steve Malzberg Show.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
Attention, if you've been classified as a high-risk driver due to DUI, DWI, or tickets for aggressive driving and are required to get expensive and hard-to-find SR22 auto insurance, then you must listen to this message because we can help. We're the largest insurance company in the U.S. specializing in SR22 auto insurance and focused on serving the needs of customers classified by the state as high-risk drivers. We help people get back on their feet by providing easy-to-get, low-cost SR22 insurance that anyone can afford. If you need SR22 auto insurance, or if you have it now and are paying too much, you need to call us today for your free quote at 800-836-4606. Our specialists are standing by waiting for your call. We understand people make mistakes, and we're here to help by making SR22 insurance easy to get and affordable for everyone. The call and quote are free. Call us now at 800-836-4606. That's 800-836-4606. Again, 800-836-4606.
Meet Jim. Like many of us, Jim enjoys a busy life. Between work, family, and friends, his days zip along. And Jim has the energy to tackle almost anything. But lately, Jim's get up and go has literally taken on a new meaning. Jim's always put focus on a full night's sleep, but it seems like these days, he's up and down to go to the bathroom so many times he can barely wake up in the morning. Prostate concerns have him sad, tired, and worried. Activities that were once enjoyable now seem like a chore for Jim. His golf game is at the mercy of his bathroom schedule. Family outings are planned around it too. Jim even has difficulty going to the bathroom. He's tried so many prostate remedies he can't keep them straight, and nothing ever seems to help. Then Jim found out about Prostate Revive, the all-natural dietary supplement specifically formulated for men, targeted towards improving and sustaining normal prostate function. Prostate Revive includes 15 super ingredients never combined before, including saw palmetto extract, beta-cytosterol, pomegranate fruit extract, selenium, and other high-quality nutrients. These targeted and all-natural ingredients promote healthy urinary flow and optimal prostate health. And the best part is, Prostate Revive was developed by a renowned medical doctor. Dr. David Brownstein personally formulated Prostate Revive with one goal in mind: to promote a healthy prostate gland. Thanks to Prostate Revive, Jim's got his life back. He gets a full night's sleep every night, and his friends and his wife can't believe he's the same guy. He has his old energy back, and no one has to wait for him. He doesn't even think about his prostate concerns anymore. Visit MedicSelect.com to take back your nights and improve your quality of life with Prostate Revive.
In 2013, half of your friends, family, and neighbors may lose their jobs, all while you are robbed of 90% of your life savings, investments, and home's value. Controversial economist Robert Wiedemer, who was the only expert to predict the recession, has released a startling video with shocking evidence that the powers that be have tried to ban. But that hasn't stopped 50 million people from getting the truth. Watch it at AftershockVideo.com. AftershockVideo.com.
What is Lignet? Lignet is knowledge. Lignet is power. Lignet is global. Top-level officials, U.S. intelligence officers, national security advisors, foreign operatives, all reporting directly to you. What is Lignet? Lignet is confidential. Lignet is sensitive. Lignet is security. What is Lignet? They're the ones taking the world's pulse. If you're not in the know, you're not on Lignet.com. You've been briefed.
Where can you find the Steve Malzberg Show? Everywhere. From your smartphone to satellite radio to Newsmax Live TV to Roku, we have you covered. Here is Steve Malzberg.
One of the key ways in which we know that this is about race is that in this moment, black families are holding their sons and daughters closer to them with such a sense that in this moment, this verdict, a verdict which may be the appropriate verdict given the evidence presented to these 6 people and the decision they made based on Florida law, nonetheless feels very much as though it is saying it is acceptable, it is okay to kill an unarmed African-American child who has committed no crime.
All right, folks, welcome back. That's Melissa Harris Perry on MSNBC saying, while though the verdict may be the correct verdict under Florida law, she feels the way she feels, and her feelings speak for a segment of our population. Joining us now is Dr. Boyce Watkins, a finance professor at Syracuse University, founder of the Your Black World Coalition. Doctor, I'm glad you accepted our invitation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for inviting me. It's always a pleasure.
Well, thank you. Okay. You have, if I'm reading correctly, you have expressed extreme disappointment with the verdict, and you said there's no logical reason that any court other than a racist one could come up with a not guilty verdict. Explain that.
Well, I think that very clearly the circumstances say that Trayvon Martin wasn't doing anything wrong. There's a history there where George Zimmerman has, he's even called 911 on a 7-year-old black kid. He pursued him without being told to do so. He was told not to do that. So basically what this verdict says is that, at least according to this situation, if you want to get away with murder, you carry a gun, find someone that you want to kill, chase them down, start a fight, and if you lose the fight, kill them, and just make sure that there are no witnesses, and you're going to be acquitted. I mean, that's effectively what we were fed from this verdict, and it's incredibly disappointing.
All right, so the black Hispanic woman, as she's been called on the jury, she's a racist?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to know. She's a racist. Okay, wait. Okay.
I mean, she could be.
Oh, she could be. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. But obviously she went along with the other racist white women. So you say he was told not to follow. Well, he was told not to follow after he was asked to let me know what else he does, which was the testimony in the court from the 311 operator who conceded that based on that instruction, it might be conceivable that George Zimmerman might have felt he was being told to follow. When he was told we don't need you to do that, he said okay, and according to Zimmerman, stopped following and was headed back to the car. You say he started the fight. How on earth would you know that, sir?
Well, because Trayvon Martin didn't start a fight with him. He didn't chase him down. He didn't.
No. Who started the fight, sir? Who started the fight? Who threw the first punch?
The person, it's not, the fight wasn't started by the person who threw the first punch. The fight was started by the person who identified another person that he wanted to stop.
No. That's not against the law, sir. I've done that. I've called 911 when there's a suspicious-looking person. That's not starting a fight.
But did you grab a gun and go chase the person down to find out what they were doing? Did you do that?
I'll tell you exactly what I did. I'll tell you exactly what I did. I live in a townhouse complex, and there was a strange car parked 2 driveways over from me with a man sitting in the car sleeping. I didn't recognize the man. I called 911 because I don't have a 311 like George Zimmerman did, and the police officer said, okay, what's the license plate? Now, I was back in my house. I said, you want me to go back out and look at the license plate? So I went back out. Now, what if the guy got out of his car and said, what are you doing here, and then slugs me? And if I had a gun and I wound up having to defend myself and shoot, you'd say it's because I called 911 because I profiled that this man was wrong or didn't belong there, that I'm responsible for it?
There's nothing wrong with calling 911. My dad's a cop. I respect good law.
So what did he do wrong? What did he do wrong?
What he did wrong was he stalked Trayvon Martin and followed him with a weapon, with a loaded weapon, and
which is legal. Which is legal. Which is legal.
It's not legal.
Sir, it is legal.
Let me scratch that. It might be legal to do that, but it's not legal to then stalk that person, create an altercation, and then kill that person.
Time out.
I think that
who created? How did he create?
If that were your child and he was walking unarmed,
that's a different aspect.
I think you'd have a very different perception of it.
Yes, I would have the perception of a grieving parent, and my heart breaks for the grieving parent. But that doesn't change the fate of George Zimmerman or the fact that he did nothing illegal that was provable beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law. And for you to say that it was only a racist court could come up with that, I'm waiting on the evidence. Even Melissa Harris Perry said there was no evidence.
Remember, there's plenty of evidence that the judicial system is racist.
I'm not talking about the judicial system, sir. I'm talking. No.
It's quite relevant to the verdict.
No, I'm talking about this case. I want to know where the evidence beyond a reasonable doubt was presented in your mind that shows that George Zimmerman was guilty.
Well, I think that your evidence to say that he's not guilty is
not what I'm asking you, sir.
Probably more faulty. We know that Trayvon Martin did Trayvon Martin cause his own death? Is that what you're trying to imply?
If Trayvon Martin started a fight, then could I answer that? I'll answer your question. If Trayvon Martin started a fight and pounded Zimmerman's head and broke his nose and gave Zimmerman the impression that he was in severe bodily danger or danger of death, then George Zimmerman, under the law, had a right to do what I would do, and I assume you would do, and that's save my own life and shoot. So if that's my answer to your question, sir.
And I think that your presumptions are not based on logic.
Really? Okay, what presumption? Wait, let's take it one at a time. What presumption that I just said, which was all evidence presented in court, do you take issue with?
But you're effectively saying that if someone has a weapon and they see
No, I just asked you a question. You gave me a presumption, sir.
Because
sir, I presented you with evidence, and you're saying my presumption.
That's not evidence. That's not evidence.
No?
You're saying what if Trayvon did this to him?
Well, he did, sir. Trayvon Martin.
You don't know. You do not know, Steve, what happened during that fight. All you know is that Zimmerman had a gun. And the 17-year-old kid who was
No. We're talking to Dr. Boyce Watkins, a finance professor at Syracuse University, founder of the Your Black World Coalition here on the Steve Malzberg Show. No, sir, we know that there were no wounds on Trayvon Martin except the gunshot, the fatal gunshot. We know that George Zimmerman had a broken nose and was bleeding, could have had a concussion. We know this from expert medical testimony. And you're telling me I don't know anything, like I'm making this up.
Well, see, the thing that you're forgetting, though, is that if Zimmerman had not brought a gun and had not...
But, sir, you can't do that. And you know what? And let me tell you this. You're right.
Why is it so easy to hold Trayvon accountable for his death, but not to hold Zimmerman accountable?
I'm not holding Trayvon accountable for his death. I'm telling you that based on the evidence, it's that Trayvon was on top beating up George Zimmerman. Now, let me just say something. You're right. If George Zimmerman had no gun, he might be dead today. And if George Zimmerman never got out of his car, let me finish, then you could talk. If George Zimmerman never got out of his car, none of this would have happened if he never called 911. But also, if Trayvon Martin, who knew someone was looking at him, and if he was a scared child, as the prosecution said in the closing rebuttal, he had 4 minutes to run a short distance home. He chose not to. Now, you could weigh in.
So I just want to know, who's responsible for Trayvon Martin's death? Is it Trayvon Martin?
Well, sir, the fact that you're asking that question is more than reasonable doubt, which a jury then is obligated to find not guilty.
No, I can tell you, Steve, I know a lot of people who are in prison right now.
Sir, I'm not talking about other people in prison. I'm talking about this trial who you said was found not guilty by a racist jury.
You can't talk about something that happened in the system and then not talk about it.
Sir, I could talk about this one case, and you said it was You said this jury was racist. You said this jury was racist. Am I correct?
Absolutely.
Well, then we're talking about this case. Where is the evidence?
If Trayvon had been a white kid, he wouldn't be dead right now.
Doc, I appreciate the give and take and the back and forth. I really do, and I hope we part as friends.
Absolutely. We are certainly friends.
All right. Thank you, Doctor. Dr. Boyce Watkins, ladies and gentlemen. Folks, I should have been a lawyer. Screw this talk show stuff, man. I mean, look. After 33 years, let me change careers. Folks, what you just heard is somebody who is desperate to either hope against hope or desperate to promote an agenda. I give you that this is not a stupid man. This is a college professor. This is a smart man. In my opinion, he's perverting, double-speaking, because he can't not understand. As Melissa Harris Perry, to her credit, said, the jury may well have been justified in finding the way they did. But he says only a racist jury could find the way they did. He gave me no evidence. When I gave him evidence, in fact, he said, how do you know that? And he says it's all because of George Zimmerman that he had a gun. Doesn't matter what Trayvon didn't do. Didn't matter if Zimmerman had a right to self-defense. None of that enters into his conclusion that only a racist jury could come to this conclusion. I think I made my point. When we come back, the great Andy McCarthy weighs in on the Steve Malzberg Show.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
I love you, son. So it hurts when you say I hate you. I'm your mother. I'm tired of you disrespecting me when you don't get your way. I work hard to make sure you have everything you need. I should be able to ask you to get out of bed in the morning without a fight. So from now on, things are going to be different. I ordered the Total Transformation Program. We're not going to scream and fight anymore. I'm going to tell you what to do in a different way, and you're going to do it. You're not going to call me ugly names anymore, and if you do, you're going to get consequences that'll keep you from calling me ugly names. We're not going to do things your way anymore, son. We're going to do things the Total Transformation way.
Get the Total Transformation free. Just order the program, tell us how it works for you, and you can keep it for free. Call 1-888-577-9520. 1-888-577-9520. Call now. Call 1-888-577-9520. 1-888-577-9520.
My patients still don't know what Obamacare means for them. And how could they? There are already 13,000 pages of regulations, and the bureaucrats are just getting started. Obamacare will change your health care, and you need to understand how. There are hidden taxes and fines, big cuts in Medicare, even new regulations on what services doctors can offer you. Some businesses could get hit with a 40% additional tax on your health care plan. Please, get the Obamacare Survival Guide today. It's the best book explaining the new law. It's easy to read, everything you need to know to protect yourself, your family, your business. The Obamacare Survival Guide. At bookstores everywhere.
Special internet-only offer right now at Obamacare911.com.
According to the FBI Uniform Crime Report, there are over 5,000 robberies every day. Your home could be at risk of being burglarized. Don't put your loved ones and valuables in jeopardy. For just over $1 per day, your home can be protected from break-ins, fire, and more. Get the latest home security technology from Protect Your Home, your ADT authorized dealer. Over 6 million households sleep better at night with ADT monitored home security. What's more, Protect Your Home is offering you their latest equipment, an $850 value, absolutely free for qualified customers. Protect your loved ones and home today. Call now for licenses and to find out more. The call is free, 1-800-949-8201. That's 1-800-949-8201. Again, 1-800-949-8201. $99 installation charge, 36-month monitoring agreement at $36.99 per month. Payment by credit card or electronic bank account charge. For new homeowner customers with satisfactory credit history only. Local permit fees may be required. Certain restrictions apply. Cannot be combined with any other offer.
Hi, this is Mike Reagan. Folks ask me, what would Ronald Reagan do if he were with us today? I believe the first thing he'd do is stop Obamacare. Already it's in effect with higher taxes, hidden fees, skyrocketing insurance rates, big Medicare cuts, and some insurance plans are hit with a 40% tax. Protect yourself by getting the Obamacare Survival Guide. It's already a #1 New York Times bestseller. Newsmax says it's the best guide to the new law, giving you the strategies, tips, and loopholes you need to know. If you're insured on Medicare, a business owner, a medical professional, just about anyone, you need this book. Get the #1 bestseller, The Obamacare Survival Guide, at bookstores everywhere. Or get our special $4.95 offer and save $15 off the cover price.
Scroll down now to claim your copy of Obamacare Survival Guide for the special internet offer of only $4.95.
This is the worst weather we've seen in quite some time, folks, and I don't see any end in sight. People have been calling in from across the state complaining their basements are flooding. One guy said he now has an indoor swimming pool in his basement. I told him he needs the waterproofing innovations from Basement Systems. If you want a dry basement or crawl space that will weather any kind of storm, you need the patented solutions from Basement Systems. You've seen them on home makeover shows throughout the country. With a lifetime warranty, every solution is custom designed for your basement. You can finally have that room you've always wanted with our total basement finishing system. Call now for a free estimate, and you'll never have to worry about storms like these again.
Call now for your free basement inspection at 800-516-9794, 800-516-9794. Learn how to waterproof your basement now. Call this number, 800-516-9794, 800-516-9794.
The Steve Malzberg Show is just a bit different from the other radio shows. We have TV cameras. Watch the show at Newsmax.com or listen on your favorite radio station. Here's Steve Malzberg.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, of course, our friend Andy McCarthy is not only best-selling author and editor at National Review, but also former assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York. Hey, Andy, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, Steve. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm a little winded. Just had a little back and forth with Dr. Boyce Watkins, who said that the jury, only a racist jury, could come up with the verdict that they came up with. I want to talk to you about this Justice Department and Eric Holder today saying, first of all, before an audience at Delta Sigma Beta, the Justice Department shares your concern with the verdict. I share your concern with the verdict. How bizarre is that?
It's very bizarre because when I was a federal prosecutor, the the Justice Department's standard line, and it was one that was standard because we believed it, was that we respected the jury process and respected jury verdicts even when we lost. So, it's remarkable to me that, given that we had a trial that was on television so that all the world could see, it was clear that the state got every opportunity to put its case in, that the state got the right to have the jury that it wanted, that it proceeded with a case that the professional investigators didn't want to charge at the beginning because they didn't think there was grounds to support a murder prosecution, but they got a full and fair chance to put it in. And, frankly, it was a rout for the accused, which is what it should be when the state doesn't have proof of the charge they bring.
And so I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it.
Yeah, and so moving forward now, where Holder says an investigation is open, and that the department will conduct the investigation consistent with the facts and the law, but yet the FBI for months has been conducting, or did conduct, an investigation looking for racial bias, looking for racism. They interviewed dozens of people. Nothing. So why doesn't Eric Holder just say that and say we've done it and there's no there?
We're seeing, Steve, part 2 of essentially what he did in the investigation of the CIA interrogators who carried out the Bush enhanced interrogation program against the high-value terrorists. If you remember what happened in that case, professional prosecutors, not political appointees, had scrubbed those allegations and decided there was no crime that could be brought under federal law. Holder reopened the investigation when Obama was elected. And this way, by having an open investigation but not bringing charges, he was able to tell Obama's political base, don't worry, we're aggressively investigating this. But when he got called on it by Congress or anyone else, say, hey, look, we haven't filed any charges. Nothing important has happened here. Don't worry about it. So, basically they keep the issue alive, which is, when you're doing law instead of politics, you want to keep the issue alive.
Yeah. All right. Now, let's move on. Well, first of all, do you think they will bring a federal prosecution against George Zimmerman? And if they do, unless there's more evidence we don't know about, with everything having been said and assuming that's all they have, can they bring one successfully?
No, I don't think so. Look, I didn't think they'd bring a case against the CIA interrogators because there was no there. And I think in this instance, a federal charge against Zimmerman would be even more frivolous than the state charge was. In the state, they had no evidence of intentional murder or depraved mind murder. And it was clear even on the manslaughter that, he had a justifiable self-defense to put in. So, that's a case. That's the reason the police never wanted to bring it in the first place. In a federal case, you'd not only have all those same problems, you would also have to show racial bias, which they obviously were not able to show in the Florida case. And in addition, that Zimmerman acted intending to impede Martin in the enjoyment of some cognizable federal civil right. I just don't see where that comes in this case at all.
Did you hear, Andy, Angela Corey today on Headline News?
No.
Okay, do we have that cut 30? Let's play cut 30. She's going to be asked by the interviewer, George Zimmerman, and then she's got to give a word. Then let's cut it after her answer before we get to De La Rionda. Here it is.
One word to describe George Zimmerman.
Steve, if she answered, I wasn't able to
Wait,
hear.
no. Well, she just said it. I should have told you there was a long pause.
Sorry.
I should have told you that was my fault. She said murderer.
It's disgraceful. A lot of times, Steve, you get a case that's a very close case. And prosecutors should never be afraid to bring close cases. You should never bring a case unless you think a jury in good faith could convict. But you shouldn't shy away from bringing close cases. And sometimes we do that because the job of a prosecutor is to put the government's best case forward but then to respect the verdict that the community comes to. That's why we try cases to juries. And to have a prosecutor come out and say something like that after the jury has decided the case, to me, is just a reprehensible thing to do.
Does she have a defamation? Does he have a defamation case against her? Because we've already been told here today that she's not protected because this wasn't in her role as a prosecutor. She doesn't have immunity against that now.
Yeah, I'm always hesitant to give that kind of legal advice on the air. It's not really what you're supposed to do. But I'd say this much about it. They've done everything they can to try to turn Zimmerman into a public figure. It's a little bit unfair under the law at this point if they were to come back and say, he's a public figure, so we have a higher latitude in the kind of demagogic things we can say about him.
It seems to me that, and you're well versed in media bias. Seems like the media is certainly treating George Zimmerman as probably the biggest pariah I could recall, including some terrorists, in a long, long time.
That's a great point, Steve. Eric Holder lectured us about the need to move terrorism cases back to the civilian system from the military system, because he wanted us to understand that we really owed due process to people like Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. And that's fair enough, but where's George Zimmerman's due process?
Yeah, no, that's a very, very good question. So Zimmerman never has a new life. He's suing NBC. What about a civil suit? We only have a minute. A civil suit, if the parents bring a civil suit against him, then he gets to bring in, first of all, he could then go and seek a stand your ground ruling, which would overrule that or override that, I think. And also, his side could then bring in all kinds of things about Trayvon Martin's past, correct?
Yeah, I think, the Martin family, I thought, acted with great dignity in the after the jury returned its verdict. And I think, at a certain point in time, good sense is going to prevail. It's not going to end up, it doesn't do anything for the Martin family to have a civil case. Well, who am I to advise them? But, there's going to be, there's an ability in a civil context to put Trayvon Martin on trial, so to speak, that really isn't there in the criminal.
Right, and they're probably not going to want to do that. Andy, thank you for your time on this very busy day for you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve. My pleasure.
Take care. Andy McCarthy, ladies and gentlemen, the best. When we come back, Tamara Holder will join us and give us her take as an attorney on this issue, and Alvida King coming up on the Steve Malzberg Show.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
Drug, alcohol, and gambling addiction can be devastating for you and your loved ones. Don't let the disease of addiction ruin everything you've worked so hard for. The Treatment Helpline has helped thousands of people just like you take control of their addictions and live healthier, cleaner, and happier lives. You are not alone. Now there's hope. The Treatment Helpline has helped people just like you overcome their addiction. If you or a loved one is suffering from a drug, alcohol, or gambling addiction, let us help you today. Call 1-800-813-9821. Our seasoned addiction treatment professionals can show you how to use your private health insurance to help cover the costs of this life-changing program. Call now and get a free confidential consultation. 1-800-813-9821. That's 1-800-813-9821. Help is only a phone call away. Call 1-800-813-9821. That's 1-800-813-9821.
Health insurance is on everybody's mind right now. You either don't have it, or you have it and you think it's too expensive. And you probably feel like you don't have any options. We can help. We are InSphere Insurance Solutions. We offer health insurance plans from major carriers nationwide and likely have a plan that can save you money. Whether you're self-employed, on a COBRA plan that's about to expire, or you simply don't have health insurance where you work and you need it, InSphere Insurance Solutions can help you. Our agents will help you find coverage you can afford. InSphere Insurance Solutions is an authorized agency in all 50 states, including the District of Columbia. Plans may not be available in all states. 800-980-9325. 800-980-9325. 800-980-9325. 800-980-9325.
Hello and welcome to your Newsmax Now update. I'm John Bachman. The Justice Department continues its review of the shooting of Trayvon Martin for possible civil rights violations, and there are new protests planned this week after George Zimmerman is acquitted of second-degree murder charges. In New York and Los Angeles Sunday, large crowds marched in the streets well into the night. In Philadelphia, about 700 people marched to Independence Hall to protest the justice system. And across Atlanta, there were several smaller demonstrations over the verdict. Meanwhile, Zimmerman is no longer being tracked by a GPS ankle monitor and is free to do what he wants. He's also allowed to get back his gun and carry it again under Florida's concealed weapons law. But his attorneys say he will forever have to worry about someone harming him. And in Egypt, Deputy Secretary of State William Burns gets the cold shoulder from both sides of the nation's divided leadership. Military officials, which get the lion's share of about $1.5 billion in U.S. aid each year, say the U.S. needs to recognize the new interim government. Meanwhile, leaders of the pro-Morsi Muslim Brotherhood say the U.S. helped topple the democratically elected president. Still, experts say there is little the U.S. can do as one of its closest allies in the region teeters on the brink of civil war. And in Washington, the Senate continues to squabble over how to proceed with presidential nominations. Some Democrats say the only way to deal with current gridlock is to do what Republicans are calling the nuclear option. Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid's plan would involve a historic shift, changing the rules on the number of votes needed to confirm executive branch nominations. That includes nominees to the Labor Department and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Currently, 67 votes are needed for approval. Reid wants to change that to a simple majority, just 51 votes.
If anyone thinks, since the first of this year, that the norms and traditions of the Senate have been followed by the Republican leader, they're living in Gaga land.
We have never changed the rules of the Senate by breaking the rules of the Senate in order to diminish the voices of individual senators.
The rule change could backfire on Democrats if Republicans regain control of the Senate in next year's election. And bombs kill more than 24 people in Iraq as political conflict between Kurds, Shiite, and Sunni Muslims grows deeper. The three sectarian groups are yet to reach a power-sharing compromise in the northern part of the country, and most of the violence has been linked to terror groups. Officials estimate that about 300 people have died this month in the violence, stoking fears that Iraq is sliding back into all-out conflict. And when your Newsmax Now update continues, buried alive, what it took to rescue a little boy trapped below 11 feet of sand. Plus, a Newsmax exclusive with former Senator Bob Packwood, why he says it's time to get rid of all of our tax deductions. Next.
In 2013, half of your friends, family, and neighbors may lose their jobs, all while you are robbed of 90% of your life savings, investments, and home's value. Controversial economist Robert Wiedemer, who was the only expert to predict the recession, has released a startling video with shocking evidence that the powers that be have tried to ban. But that hasn't stopped 50 million people from getting the truth. Watch it at Aftershock911.com. Aftershock911.com.
Obamacare. More than $1 trillion in new costs. Hidden taxes, fees, big Medicare cuts, doctor shortages. How can we survive?
To know Obamacare is to survive Obamacare. The Obamacare Survival Guide tells you everything you need to know to protect yourself, your family, your business. The Obamacare Survival Guide at bookstores everywhere. Special internet-only offer right now at Obamacare911.com.
Guys, you've heard about Ageless Male, the natural supplement that helps boost testosterone levels within normal, healthy ranges. But now, the best testosterone product is even better. New and improved Ageless Male can help you feel more like you used to in your active life and in your romantic life. Because our upgraded formula has been clinically shown to increase your drive, desire, and performance. That's right, guys. Ageless Male has been clinically shown to boost performance. Cancel your plans this weekend. You're staying in. If you're ready to recapture the drive from your youth, now is the time to try Ageless Male because it's available risk-free. But you must call now. Just call 1-800-460-9790. Be the guy you used to be. Just call 1-800-460-9790. 1-800-460-9790. 1-800-460-9790.
And welcome back. A 6-year-old boy was trapped for nearly 4 hours, buried in a huge sand dune in Indiana. The rescue effort by first responders and construction crews took hours before eventually the boy was found inside an air pocket under about 11 feet of sand. He reportedly suffered no brain damage or life-threatening injuries, thank God, and is now recovering at a local hospital. And during a Newsmax exclusive with former chairman of the Senate Finance Committee and current member of the Fix the Debt Congressional Fiscal Leadership Council, Republican Bob Packwood, says if lawmakers really want to reform the tax code, they've got to get rid of every single deduction and start from scratch.
You've got to start from nothing and build up, rather than trying to deduct from what is.
And to see more of our exclusive interviews and content, stay with Newsmax.com. This has been your Newsmax Now update for July 15th. I'm John Bachman. Now here's the Steve Malzberg Show in New York.
Are you ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studios, this is the Steve Malzberg Show. Be a part of the action by calling 855-777-9660. That's 855-777-9660. Or email Steve at malzbergshow@newsmax.com. Here is Steve Malzberg.
I think the prosecution of George Zimmerman was disgraceful. I am gratified by the jury's verdict, as happy as I am for George Zimmerman. I'm thrilled that this jury kept this tragedy from becoming a travesty. For that we are eternally grateful. But it makes me sad, too, that it took this long, under these circumstances, to finally get justice.
All right, that's defense attorney Don West speaking after the verdict on Saturday night. Welcome to hour number 2 of the Steve Malzberg Show. And joining us once again to give us her view on what has happened and what is happening and what will happen, all three, is Tamara Holder, attorney and Fox News legal analyst. And I got the name the way it's supposed to be this time, right?
I'm so proud of you.
Thank
Most
you.
men don't get things right the first time, but you're a pro.
Well, no, this is the second time. I mean, I got it wrong last time we spoke, right?
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Oh.
This is the first time you got it right.
Oh, okay, I got you. All right. So, your take on Saturday night's verdict?
I think that it was a fair verdict. I'm very, very disappointed in the civil rights groups and civil rights, quote, leaders, unquote, who are upset and saying that justice hasn't been served. Not only am I a lot of people think I'm this, crazy liberal, but like you said, I'm a lawyer. And the best thing about our judicial system, although it's not perfect, is that we generally have fair trials. And if anybody had a fair trial, it was George Zimmerman. He had, there were, I believe, 58 witnesses. The jury questionnaire was filled out by 211 prospective jurors and whittled down to 40, and then they got to 6. All 6 of the jurors who were picked were the ones who made the final decision. Of course, one was dismissed, who was an alternate, but there was no sign of impropriety or just whatever, and any kind of illegal misconduct on the part of the jurors. And this is how Lady Justice is supposed to work. It's unfortunate that the state didn't have enough evidence to convict him in this case or in any case, if they're prosecuting, obviously. But it's fortunate for the defense that they were able to show that they didn't meet their burden beyond a reasonable doubt.
All right, and you talk about the so-called civil rights people. First of all, I mean, let me tell you, let you hear something Ben Crump, the attorney for the family, said. And by the way, this was echoed by Jesse Jackson. And to me, as a white person, I take offense at it. Listen to the first cut I told you about, the 55, the Crump cut. Here we go.
This morning, Martin Luther King's daughter, Dr. Bernice King, tweeted me a message that read, "Today is a defining moment for the status of my father's dream." "Whatever the Zimmerman verdict is," she tweeted, "in the words of my father, we must conduct ourselves on the higher plane of dignity and discipline." Trayvon Martin will forever remain in the annals of history next to Medgar Evers and Emmett Till as symbols for the fight for equal justice for all.
Now, for those who don't know, Emmett Till was for speaking to a white woman, was dragged out of his bed by two men, including the husband of the woman and his brother, given a brutal murder, had barbed wire tied around his neck, hanged, thrown into a river with weights around his body. And to compare what that symbolized and what that means and what that young man, that 14-year-old boy went through to this, and Jesse Jackson said the same thing. I do not get it. I do not get it.
Well, it's just really unfortunate that civil rights leaders, and by the way, I've worked with Jesse Jackson Sr. for years. I know Al Sharpton. I've been on his radio show and worked with him a little bit as well. So they do good work. However, the part that bothers me that most people aren't talking about is that civil rights is not just about blacks or whites. It is also about gender. And we had a 6-person, all-woman jury that these men and these civil rights groups are now saying is a slap in the face to America. I mean, that's what Al Sharpton said. He said that their decision was a slap in the face. A slap in the face is, in my opinion, the most disrespectful thing somebody can do to another besides spit in their face. How dare he say that? That's discrimination. That's a discriminatory comment. We should respect the women. We should respect their decision and move forward and find out what we can learn. Do we need to behave this way towards one another? Those are the conversations we should be having.
Well,
but Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman, the case is over.
Well, it's that case is over, but the media is not letting it die, and neither is Angela Corey. And as an attorney, I've asked several attorneys this already. I'd be curious to your opinion. Angela Corey was asked on Headline News. It's going to air tonight, but it's been airing on CNN all day long. She sat there with the entire prosecution team, and they asked the announcer, the anchor said, George Zimmerman, and he wanted a response, a one-word response. Angela Corey paused for about 15, 20 seconds and said, murderer.
It's a tragedy. I can't. Do I think that George Zimmerman was hypersensitive? Yes. Do I have certain feelings about George Zimmerman and his behavior? Yes. But I also have the utmost respect for our judicial system and those jurors. And the prosecutors had their chance. The defense put on their case as well. And those jurors made a decision that he's not a murderer. He didn't not only murder, he didn't commit manslaughter. What do we want in America today? Do we want public lynchings? Do we want stonings? Is that what would make these people happy? What would have been the right answer? An all-black jury that found him guilty? One black?
Well, I'm glad you said that, because talking about a distortion, again, sometimes I wonder if it's ignorance of the facts in the law, because to this day I keep hearing, I heard it this morning over and over, how George Zimmerman was told not to leave the car, which of course he wasn't told not to leave the car. But that's beside the point. Listen to what Jesse Jackson, Jesse Jackson said about the jury makeup on, I think it was MSNBC yesterday. Here we go.
Well, it was a stretch trying to avoid the obvious that there was no, you speak of a jury of your peers, there was no man on the jury, and Trayvon was a black boy. There was no man, no black on the jury, so at least the idea of a jury of peers was a stretch all the while.
Of course, the jury of his peers is for George Zimmerman, not for Trayvon. Duh.
No, but here's the thing that Reverend Jackson, who, like I said, I know and respect, and I'm going to call him after this and correct him. There is no constitutional requirement that you were tried by a jury of your peers.
No, obviously, but not only that is he, but he's telling the world that Trayvon didn't get a jury of his peers.
Right. and so now we're saying that if you're a black victim, Reverend Jackson said that there wasn't a black person on the jury. So if you're a black person, should we now change the law that if you're a black person, you should have a black person on the jury? If you're a black victim, then you have to have a black person on the jury. It's just not right. And like I said in the beginning of this interview, we had both the prosecution and the defense go through 211 questionnaires. They whittled them down. Both sides looked for jurors that they thought would make a decision in their favor. This is a chess game. It's all about picking the right jurors and also putting together your case properly. How is this verdict improper?
Well, it's racist. I just had a Syracuse professor who you may be familiar with, Dr. Boyce Watkins, who wrote a piece saying that there's no logical reason that any court other than a racist one would convict George Zimmerman. So we went at it for 12, 15 minutes, and I begged him for any evidence. And all he came up with was George Zimmerman had a gun, and if he didn't chase him, none of this would have happened. And I said, that's not the law. I said that none of what George Zimmerman did up until the conflict was against the law, and nobody and the people who were supporting or against the verdict and trying to change George Zimmerman into some animal don't want to talk about the law.
Right, or talk about, just like I said, I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but to talk about how George Zimmerman received a fair trial. If you want to be upset, I would say be upset with the police. Be upset with the fact that they failed to properly, not investigate, but just in the beginning, gather evidence. I submit that somebody should put together a law on the books that in the event that there's a killing, whether it's in self-defense and justified or not, that the police investigate it in the event that it could be possibly a crime. There were certain things that the police totally screwed up on. And it shouldn't have happened. And there was a possibility that a crime was committed here. And they overlooked it. But we also saw that in O.J. Simpson. A lot of evidence didn't come in because they messed up.
But there was really no evidence that I mean, what evidence could the police have come up with that didn't make it into court that could have changed the outcome? I mean, what?
Well, I believe that, for example, Trayvon Martin's clothes were not, they sat in a plastic bag for weeks. They did not take, my biggest problem.
Well, no, they went to the autopsy. The medical examiner who looked like, it was a comedy show, the body was in the bag with the clothes, and he said the clothes were taken off. So
my point is that I'm not trying to retry the case here.
But I just don't see any evidence. Look, the cops did investigate, and they found that there was no reason to arrest him.
No, but the problem is, again, I believe that in the event, a boy was killed, a person was killed. That's a tragedy. I don't care what anybody says.
Absolutely.
That is a tragedy, and it was a violent death. He died with a gunshot wound to his chest. And George Zimmerman had injuries. Why the police didn't take him to the to the hospital instead of the police station is beyond me. One of the things that was brought out in trial is that
he didn't want to go.
Well, but he should have gone. He had visible injuries.
But you can't force somebody to go to the hospital.
Sure, but if there is a law that requires something like that.
All right, so you're saying going forward, but then you also said that because the police screwed up, evidence might not have made it in like in OJ, but I don't see anything. I'm not retrying the case. I just don't see anything. The body was examined by the medical examiner. It was taken.
Right.
So I don't see anything that the police left out. Pictures were taken of his face, etc. He was examined by his own doctor the next day. So I don't see how the police screwed this up, and possibly because of that, evidence was not given to the prosecution or available to the prosecution, and he would have been found a different verdict.
I just think that the police should have done a better job in their investigation, whether or not and that would have, I think, maybe helped to ease these racial tensions. Had they done certain things, certain standard operating procedures, certain protocol, had that been in place, maybe there wouldn't have been the tension that there is today and that there was the day after on February 29th.
Gotcha.
And up until then. And this isn't a perfect case. There were no eyewitnesses. There were some ear witnesses. Rachel Gentile, who, by the way, I believe the civil rights leaders want to scream and talk about injustice, should go to the public schools in Stanford.
I'll tell you where she should have gone. She should have gone and been held in contempt of court for her actions in that courtroom, her faces, her attitude. And I'm telling you, if she were white, she would have been held.
But people, that's why witnesses their credibility is based on not only what they say, but their courtroom demeanor. And she hurt the prosecution. She was just one person, and there's been a lot of talk of this. All of these witnesses that were prosecution witnesses ended up helping the defense.
Yep. Oh, absolutely.
She didn't help the prosecution.
No, and by the way, she's on with Piers Morgan tonight, which should be quite an interesting interview. Hey, Tamara, thank you so much. I look forward to the next time we speak.
Well, thank you for having me.
My
and
pleasure.
Thanks for getting my name right.
You're welcome. Take care.
Yeah.
Well, after all, Tamara said Steve correctly, so I felt it was incumbent upon me to get it right. Tamara Holder, ladies and gentlemen, attorney, Fox News legal analyst, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Bottom of the hour, Alveda King. Dr. Alveda King joins us once again, the niece of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. She, of course, is also Newsmax contributor and director of African-American Outreach for Priests for Life. So that's going to be very interesting. We also have Jerome Corsi this hour, Lise Wheel in the next hour, Adam Thompson, our defense attorney friend. So we're going to continue. And your calls, I mean, if you want to try to sneak a call in here on this issue, I got to tell you, I did WMAL on Sunday for 3 hours. And the board did not have one opening. Someone hung up, another call came in. 3 hours, and I'm sure that we could have kept it going for 23 hours, and the same would have been the case. So 855-777-9660, 855-777-9660. Oh, and I'm saying hello to Wayne, Ari, Sammy, and I think Evan, if I have that last one correct. They're on their way to the Home Run Derby at Citi Field. Lucky them. Love you guys. Take care on the Steve Malzberg Show.
The Steve Malzberg Show. If you need to lose weight and would like to get paid for it, that's right, I said get paid to lose weight. Just listen to the following announcement. The makers of GCE Green Coffee Bean Weight Loss are looking for real testimonials from real people and will pay you per pound to meet or exceed your weight loss goal. Until now, the secrets of green coffee's fat-burning power has been limited, but thanks to Dr. Oz, the secret is out. And now, this authentic green coffee bean fat burner is available in easy-to-take tablets. There are no expensive meals to buy or strenuous workouts. Simply take one tablet before each meal and record your progress. Only the first 200 callers are guaranteed to be accepted into the program. So if you're serious about losing extra weight and want to earn extra cash for fitting into your skinny jeans again, call 800-383-9230 now. Call 800-383-9230. 800-383-9230. Space is limited, so hurry and secure your spot today. 800-383-9230. Some conditions apply. 800-383-9230. 800-383-9230.
Hello, my name is Fred Fleitz, and I'm the managing editor of LigNet. You've probably seen our name preceding some of the stories you read on Newsmax or heard LigNet referenced on Fox News, C-SPAN, or CNN. Perhaps you've asked yourself, what is LigNet? LigNet is an acronym for the Langley Intelligence Group Network, a private Washington, D.C. based service that provides global intelligence, in-depth analysis, and detailed forecasting. LigNet's staff and advisors include former CIA officers, national security experts, presidential advisors, and top-level government officials from around the world. I myself held several national security posts for the U.S. government during my 25-year career with the Central Intelligence Agency, the Defense Intelligence Agency, the U.S. Department of State, and the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. Our lead advisor is General Michael Hayden, the former director of the CIA. He is joined by former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations John Bolton and former chairman of the National Intelligence Council and Special Assistant to President Ronald Reagan Fritz Ehrmann, former U.S. Ambassador to Venezuela Otto Reich, and former clandestine service officer Frederick Russman. Former chairman of the House Intelligence Committee Peter Hoekstra also joined our advisory board staff. Every day, our goal is to use our expertise, our resources, and our worldwide staff to take the pulse of the ever-changing political and economic landscape and the threats we face on a daily basis. Whether you are following global events for your portfolio or business, or just interested in the world around you, Lignet provides what you need to know to keep up with global events. There are many. Every day, Lignet members receive the Morning Brief, a daily email that provides summaries and links to our daily analysis to keep you up to date on Lignet's assessments. Lignet members receive unrestricted access to Lignet's secure database of global analysis. All of our special reports, previous analyses, and exclusive video interviews with intelligence insiders are available to members 24 hours a day. But you also get top-notch analysis that resembles the President's Daily Brief, the classified intelligence assessment delivered to the President of the United States every morning. Lignet also sends breaking news emails to our membership list. If there is a development of global proportions or a terror alert, our subscribers are always the first to know. I hope you now have a better understanding of what Lignet is, but more importantly, recognize how truly invaluable Lignet can be. As the old saying goes, knowledge is power.
Join Lignet for $1. Go to lignet.com.
Breaking news and breaking hearts. Aww. This is the Steve Malzberg Show.
All right, folks, ask and ye shall receive, I guess. 855-777-9660. Elvira King coming up at the bottom of the hour. In the meantime, we have Linda in Georgia. Linda, you listening on News Talk 1160?
I am.
Great. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Well, thanks for calling. Go ahead. What can I do for you?
Well, I have a question. Why is everyone ignoring the fact that, back up for just a moment, say that they didn't fight over the gun for whatever reason, but Trayvon Martin eventually got up off of the top of Zimmerman. Why wouldn't Trayvon Martin have been charged with assault and battery? He beat the crap out of Zimmerman. And there was no evidence showing that Zimmerman even got in a punch on Trayvon Martin.
I believe you're.
Why wouldn't he have been charged?
Well, this has not been discussed, but let's look. I think you make a valid point, and I'm sorry that it's so late, and I have to say thanks for the call. But let's stay for a second. I think that if there had been no gunshot, if cops came and broke it up and found Zimmerman, Trayvon Martin on top of him, beating him, and Zimmerman with a broken nose and cuts on his head, and Trayvon with no bruises on his body, I'm sure that Trayvon Martin would have been arrested for assault. I mean, I can only imagine how it would have played out in court. I don't know, but I think you make a great point, Linda, and I thank you very much for the call. Spread the word about the show. Great Atlanta News Talk 1160. And we're coming back with Elvira King, Dr. King, the niece of Martin Luther King Jr., on the Steve Malzberg Show.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
Don't complain about your cable bill going up and up and up. Do something about it. Grab a pencil and jot down this special number, 1-855-625-MY-TV. The more cable TV rates go up, the better digital satellite TV looks. So cancel the cable and get more of your favorite channels in 100% digital quality for less money. Call 1-855-625-MY-TV. Right now to sign up for packages starting as low as $19.99, and there's no equipment to buy. You get free HD TV upgrade, a free DVR upgrade, and free professional installation. You control what you watch when you watch it. Record your favorite shows. Pause and rewind live TV. Even skip the commercials. Watch local channels too. At just $19.99, what are you waiting for? Pull out your major credit or debit card. Call 1-855-625-MY-TV. 1-855-625-MY-TV. Cancel the cable. Cut costs and get more. 1-855-625-MY-TV. 1-855-625-MY-TV.
Attention hip implant patients. Are you in constant pain? Have you received a letter from your doctor about your implant? Have you had or need a revision surgery? Do you have high levels of metal, chromium, or cobalt in your blood? Over 90,000 hip implant devices have been recalled due to defects and failures resulting in revision or replacement surgery. If you have a recalled hip implant, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Call 800-460-0920 to see if your implant is affected by the recalls. If you or a loved one has a defective or recalled hip implant, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Call 800-460-0920. That's 800-460-0920. Protect your legal rights today. Call 800-460-0920. This is an advertisement, not valid in all states. Paid non-attorney spokesperson. iLawsuit.com is an advertising group that represents lawyers advertising their services and is a free matching service for consumers. It is not a law firm or lawyer referral service.
We're in the midst of an obesity epidemic, and I'm not surprised. The statistics on obesity mirror an increasing trend of eating out or ordering in. In fact, some people dine out every night, but eating in restaurants is one of the biggest enemies of your heart. When you're in a restaurant, you don't really know what you're getting, and the calorie counts of many restaurant dishes are astronomical. In fact, some single dishes contain more calories than we should eat in an entire day. Eating in fast food restaurants is even worse. A diet of hamburgers, French fries, and shakes constitutes a fast lane to the emergency room. If you really want to help your heart, get in the habit of cooking simple meals at home. Here are 3 easy tips that will make your food taste better than even the best restaurant. Choose the best fruit in season. Your local farmer's market is a great place to start. It will probably still cost less than that pie you were thinking of buying. Get in the habit of using fresh herbs. You can use them in egg white omelets or dust them on the fish you grill or bake. And for a light dessert, choose a square or 2 of dark chocolate that you and your spouse can enjoy. There are lots of ways to make your heart healthy, but there are also lots of ways to damage it. That's why I wrote Fix It, Dr. Crandall's 90-day program. In it, I'll tell you how to kickstart your metabolism every day, how to pick the best diet for you, how to stop hunger from sabotaging your diet, the 7 superfoods for your heart. I'm Dr. Chauncey Crandall, and thanks for watching this Heart Health Minute.
Where can you find the Steve Malzberg Show? Everywhere. From your smartphone to satellite radio to Newsmax Live TV to Roku, we have you covered. Here is Steve Malzberg.
I think this is, for many Americans, George, just another piece of evidence of the incontrovertible contempt that this nation often shows and displays for black men. In just a matter of weeks, in this nation, we will celebrate the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington and that wonderful, brilliant speech by Dr. King, I Have a Dream. In that speech, you'll recall the one line that we all seem to know, not much else, but we know that one line. I want my children to one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. George Zimmerman knew nothing of Trayvon Martin's character. All he saw was his color. Something is wrong in this nation. 50 years after the March on Washington, while the Voting Rights Act is being gutted, speaking of the Justice Department, what they'll do about that perhaps, something is wrong when adults can racially profile children. Trayvon Martin was a child, racially profiled and gunned down in
All right, folks, welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. That was Tavis Smiley of NPR and PBS on This Week with George Stephanopoulos. Joining us now is the niece of the man that Smiley referred to, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We welcome in once again Alveda King, and she also, of course, is a civil rights and pro-life activist and director of African American outreach at Priests for Life. Welcome, Doctor. Great to talk to you again.
It's great to talk to you as well. This is a turbulent time, so you're doing what's very important, communicating and getting these viewpoints out And I thank you for this opportunity.
Well, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. I want you first, and we'll get to you. It seems as though your calls for nonviolence in the footsteps, if you will, of your uncle have been followed for the most part. But let me ask you about the words of in this case, Tavis Smiley, what you just heard. Do you believe that this verdict shows a contempt for against black men in this country?
I want to answer that first, but I do want to say, let me remark on the other part of your statement. The Zimmerman family, of course, has seemed to have prevailed with this verdict and all of that, but they've lost a lot. And George Zimmerman is really kind of out there as a public spectacle, believe it or not. Some people are saying he's a hero, but some people are not, and you have a lot of comment about him, and that has disrupted their lives. Now, Trayvon Martin's family, and I'm praying with them. I admire their insistence on peaceful, nonviolent resolution as they move forward. They've always asked for peace. They've always asked people not to riot. I admire that. And so I believe that there's a contempt for young people, period, in America. And I see it in every arena. The issue of race, I know Tavis Smiley, and I heard years, hundreds of years of pain in his voice, the frustration of an African-American man who has known oppression throughout the decades and the years. And so I understand that pain and that frustration. However, I believe, because I know that Tavis Smiley often has followed Martin Luther King Jr., we're going to celebrate the 50th anniversary of I Have a Dream. He even quoted part of that. If Tavis can remember that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. talked about a beloved community, if he can remember that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, we must all live together as brothers, and I add, and sisters in this 21st century, or perish as fools. Now, how could Martin Luther King Jr. say that if he didn't understand that there are not separate races? There's no black race, white race, yellow race, and red race. Now, the other thing is, Mr. Zimmerman is not a Caucasian. He's a Hispanic. The media is somehow forgetting that. So all of these nuances, all of the race baiting, all of the pain, all of the reopening of the old wounds, I'm saying let's pour the oil of truth. Let's come up now as the human race, the human family. Now, for those who are celebrating the verdict, and some are, that should not be done with pride and arrogance. Oh, yeah, he's won. He's a hero. The jury, the members of the jury, they're heroines. They did great. No, this is not a time to celebrate because a young man is dead. His dreams are deferred. His dream was buried with him. This is a time to stand back and say, something is wrong in the history of America. This must be a teaching moment. I approach it with prayer, with the scriptures. Mercy triumphs over judgment. Let justice roll down like waters. Martin Luther King Jr. quoted that. So all of this, we've got to love justice, but love mercy and walk humbly before our God. So this is a time for prayer, humility. I really hate to hear one side celebrating and the other side is so deeply grieved that the breach will come in prayer.
All right, and let me ask you, that's very well said, but it goes beyond Tavis Smiley, who in reality is a talk show host. Jesse Jackson, again, as he's done in the past with other incidents, to me, as a white man, has diminished the significance of Emmett Till and the shooting and assassination of Medgar Evers by saying Trayvon Martin is Emmett Till and is Medgar Evers. I mean, I don't understand that.
There's a reason that you don't understand it. I have people calling me and texting me and saying, don't forget to represent your blackness when you speak on these interviews. I said, you know what? I try to represent the kingdom of God in the first place. I try to understand that we are the human race. We're not broken into different races. There's one race. Now, racism, the lie of racism is what killed Emmett Till. And we know, we can go back and look at those pictures. His mother said, I want the coffin open.
Oh, absolutely. He was pulled. But Dr. King, for those who don't know, he was pulled out of his bed by two racist brothers. He was given a horrific murder. He was beaten. They put barbed wire around his neck. He was thrown in the lake with a weight around him. I mean, that's what I mean. How does someone like Jesse Jackson compare that to this case?
It cannot be compared to this case. I do believe that Mr. Zimmerman was irresponsible. The stand your ground should be for mature, clear-thinking, rational-thinking people. He was none of those at the point when he was told, when he called the law enforcement people, they said, stay in your car. Are you chasing him? And then on one of the things that you heard it.
Well, no, well, with all due respect, Dr. King, and I've played this tape, and I've had this argument, and I've played the tape. He was not told, stay in your car. He was actually told, and this was the testimony at the trial, by the 311 operator. The 311 operator said to him, tell me what else he does. So that led Zimmerman to go follow him. Then,
but either way, now, I just don't want to try to make Zimmerman into a hero.
No, neither am I, but he was not told to stay in the car. He was not told to stay in the car.
Okay, well, thank you. See what I said in the beginning. Thank you for that clarity. When we get these points out, this communication, that's good.
Right.
I stand corrected. But he's not a hero. He was not thinking rationally.
Right.
It's very tragic that Trayvon is dead. Trayvon never should have been shot. And so that's what I said. I said we've affected the lives of two young males, one an adult male and one a teenage male. One is dead, and I am saddened. I'm very sad. It should not have happened.
Absolutely not. Absolutely, it should not have happened.
There was reasonable doubt, all of that. The case was presented. It followed the rules of our imperfect justice system, because anything that human beings do is imperfect. And that's why I'm a preacher today, and that's why I'm telling people about Acts 17:26. Stop thinking that this is a race thing between separate races. This is all human beings here. If we're still feeling that one part of our community is better than the other because of skin color, that's got to change right now. It's wrong to think that way, people. And so I know the pain. I feel the pain. I do want to emphasize this is not a time to celebrate a victory.
Right.
Because no victory has been won. An acquittal just happened. But some lives have been really devastated. That's the best way I can put it.
We're talking to Dr. Alveda King, the niece of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. She's also, of course, Director of African American Outreach at Priests for Life, an organization which does such wonderful, wonderful work. I just have time for one more question. There's all kinds of calls from the NAACP and everyone else on that side of the issue for a civil rights case to be brought against George Zimmerman. Do you believe that that would be helpful?
It is not helpful to race bait NAACP and all of those organizations who also support abortion, who also support the destruction of natural marriage and family. And so we need to wonder why they're doing that, what kind of checks and money they're getting behind the scenes to stir us up into racial anarchy when we should be speaking nonviolence, justice, peace, and love, as Trayvon's parents are doing, by the way. And so I believe that we need to ask why they're race baiting, because they are, and therefore I don't defend their issues. Oh, this is race problem. It's all of that. No, this is a human heart problem. We need to approach this in prayer. We need to be nonviolent. We need to learn from this lesson so that Trayvon Martin, many years from now when we remember, say that's the time in America's history when people realized that something was very wrong in America. A young man died, and America went on her knees. That's really what I'm trying to get us to.
Dr. King, it is always my honor to speak to you, and I value our relationship, and thank you very, very much.
Thank you. God bless you.
Take care. You too. Dr. Alveda King, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. Why is the NAACP race baiting? Zimmerman is not a Caucasian. He's Hispanic. It's the media that's perpetuated this myth of his being a Caucasian. And this cannot be compared to Emmett Till. She is a voice of sanity, and we need more of those. When we come back, we're switching gears. Jerome Corsi's out with a great new book. We'll talk about it with him on the Steve Malzberg Show.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
Heart disease is the biggest killer disease in America, and this doesn't surprise me. We are addicted to starches, sugars, fatty meats, and salt. People who live in countries with little heart disease eat very differently. One way some people stay heart healthy is by following what is known as the caveman or Stonehenge diet, so named because of its similarity to the way our prehistoric ancestors ate. People who follow this type of diet live off local fruits and root vegetables and get their protein mostly from fish and wild game they shoot themselves. Now, since most of us don't hunt or fish for all our protein, Here are some simple tips on how you can start to eat like a caveman, modern day style. First, fill up on fruits and vegetables. Eat them first and you'll be less hungry. Feast on fish, which is rich in nutrients but not in calories. Choose fatty fish like mackerel, herring, sardines, and salmon, which are rich in heart-healthy omega-3 fatty acids. Get out and go for a walk. Remember, our ancestors were hunters and gatherers, so they didn't spend their time sitting in front of a TV or computer all day. If you live more like a caveman or a cave woman, your heart will love you for it. I'm Dr. Chauncey Crandall, and thank you for watching this Heart Health Minute. Remember, it's never too late to prevent or reverse heart disease. Right now, I invite you to discover your own risk for heart disease or even a heart attack by taking my quick, free online quiz at www.simplehearttest.com.
Hi, this is Dick Morris. Obamacare is taking full effect this year with over 15,000 pages of regulations. You need to know how this law affects you. That's why you should get your copy of Obamacare's Survival Guide. It's easy to read and the best guide to the new law. Even if you're currently insured or a senior on Medicare or a business owner, a medical professional, or really any citizen, you need the Obamacare Survival Guide. In it, you'll find about hidden taxes, fees, and fines, including a 40% tax on some health plans. I warned you about Obamacare. It's rationing, Medicare cuts, and will trigger doctor shortages. Now the Obamacare Survival Guide gives you the simple steps to protect your family. So get the Obamacare Survival Guide at bookstores everywhere. It's already a #1 Amazon bestseller. Or get our special $4.95 offer and save $15 today by going to Obamacare911.com. Obamacare911.com. That's Obamacare911.com.
Judging from everything you hear, you think all cholesterol is bad, but that's not really true. You need a certain amount of cholesterol to maintain good health. The problem is that too much cholesterol in your blood contributes to a plaque, a fatty substance that narrows the coronary arteries that feed blood flow to your heart. Picture your coronary arteries as a 4-lane highway. If one lane becomes blocked, traffic still flows well. 2 lanes, no major problem. But if a 3rd lane becomes blocked, that spells trouble. It's the same way with your coronary arteries. And when plaque slows their blood flow to your heart, this can even cause a heart attack. The good news is that when it comes to cholesterol, lifestyle changes can pay off big time. Even a small reduction in plaque can be like opening up another highway lane. Suddenly, blood flow that was stalled can go forward again. Changing your lifestyle does not have to be hard. And in fact, here are 3 ways to help you start lowering your cholesterol. Snack on nuts. Nuts are probably one of the easiest and tastiest ways to lower cholesterol. Walnuts and almonds are among the best. Bulk up your diet with fiber. Choose whole fruits instead of a fruit juice, brown rice instead of white, and if you're eating a baked potato, be sure to leave the skin on. Choose fish. Fish contains cholesterol-fighting omega-3 fatty acids. I'm Dr. Chauncey Crandall, and thanks for watching this Heart Health Minute. Remember, it's never too late to prevent or reverse heart disease. Right now, I invite you to discover your own risk for heart disease or even a heart attack by taking my quick, free online quiz at www.simplehearttest.com.
Microphones hot. Satellite link established. Studio lights illuminated. Cameras rolling. Audio and video encoders firing 1s and 0s. Internet stream is streaming. The most technology advanced radio show is on the air. Here's the captain of this enterprise, Steve Malzberg.
Well, I don't know if Jerry Corsi knew he was coming on with the captain. But nonetheless, he is. We welcome in my friend Jerry Corsi, New York Times best-selling author, senior staff writer for WND.com, and the author of a great new book, What Went Wrong? The inside story of the GOP debacle of 2012 and how it can be avoided next time I hold that book up. For those of you watching at Newsmax.com and those of you listening everywhere else, I urge you to get your hands on it. Hey, Jerry, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Steve. Thanks. Congratulations on the promotion.
Well, thank you very much, and congratulations on the new book. I'm sure it's going to be another bestseller, as usual with you. And, boy, you and I go so far back. But I got to tell you, I don't know. Your book is fantastic, and I want you to give me your analysis. But I've been saying over and over and over again, until the Republicans do two things. First, understand that they're not only running against a Democratic presidential candidate, they're running against a media probably more detrimental to the Republican candidate than the Democratic candidate could ever be. And number two, stop running away from fights on abortion and social issues where the Republican candidate is probably in the mainstream. All they have to do is prove and talk about how far out of the mainstream to the left the Democratic candidate is. In 2012, Romney didn't do it. In 2008, McCain didn't do it. But you go even more in depth than that.
Well, I mean, I agree with you. I think you're right. And I'd add to it that the Republicans have got to realize that they're up against a team of pros here, that Obama had really top computer guys. He had top media. The Obama people knew what they had to do to win, and which is essentially capture the urban vote in about a half a dozen states. And they knew who those voters were down to the person, and they knew how to get them to the polls. They had workers in the field that were communicating back to the Obama camp by iPhone and by iPad, very technologically sophisticated operation. And Republicans who are Me Too Democrats are just not going to succeed. That's a major point of my book.
Yeah, absolutely. And this ground game that the Obama campaign played so well twice is now heading over to Hillary for 2016. So they're going to have their hands full again if they don't adjust. How do the Republicans, as your book addresses, how do they avoid it in 2016, another debacle, as you put it?
Well, as I put, look at the analysis of the book, Steve. I show the real political science analysis. Remember, I'm a PhD in political science from Harvard. I've been studying voting behavior for a long time. I cite the analysts who designed the strategy for the Democrats. They knew down to the voter how many they had to get, where they were. The Republicans are going to realize the Democrats with Obama have engaged in a game-changing strategy. The Democrats think that they can put together a permanent electoral majority for the president, and they're doing it through classic, FDR-style interest group politics.
Right.
And identity politics, where African Americans voting 96% for Obama, Hispanics 77%. And if the Republicans say, we'll just pass an amnesty bill too, that's not going to appeal to Hispanics. Hispanics have got to be appealed to with a conservative message, a message that's distinct from the Democrats, and one that is equally well crafted and communicated by social media, by understanding the voters, profiling the voters, and getting a ground game in place. I mean, this is a brand new game. And I compare it to, when the Yankees were dominant even in the 60s, other teams thinking they could compete with the Yankees couldn't do it unless they realized that Steinbrenner was about to change the nature of the game. And he did. The Yankees dominated, and the Democrats are pursuing a similar kind of dominant strategy, and it can't be discounted. These are very smart guys who are running the Obama campaigns.
We're talking to Jerry Corsi, the author of What Went Wrong, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. How is it possible? And I guess it's almost a rhetorical question because you've already answered it kind of with the ground game that the Obama administration had. But I mean, no one would have thought, and certainly as you point out in the book, the Romney people thought right up to Election Day itself, during Election Day, that even into the night, that they were going to win. Who would have suspected that a greater percentage or more minority vote, more Hispanic vote, would come out and vote for Obama than the first time around when there was nothing but a lack of enthusiasm being reported in the months and weeks leading up to the actual vote?
Well, you're right. You're fighting a hostile media. But I traveled for 3 weeks with the Romney campaign on Romney's airplane. The last 3 weeks of the campaign, and it's discussed at great length in the book. Stuart Stevens, one of the top analysts for Romney, came back into the plane, and he told me, flying back to Boston for the returns that day, on Election Day, that a good message, which they thought they crafted for Romney, was going to beat the ground game. And I'm looking at Stuart Stevens and saying, not today. Not when you've got look at what the Obama people have done with the NSA, the National Security Agency. These are people who know how to micro-target voters based on massive crunching of data. And they're very sophisticated. And then they craft their message for Obama to fit the profiles of the voters they're going after.
Well, wait. Are you saying that somehow government spying, NSA, that kind of thing was I don't want to say hijacked, but I'll say used by the Obama campaign to help in targeting of voters, et cetera?
Well, I can't prove that they shifted the data over from the NSA, but they used the same techniques.
Okay.
They may not have been able to listen into everybody's phone, but once they got finished profiling Facebook and all the other social media, and then bought massive databases, the Democrats were buying huge databases from credit cards. They knew what magazines you read. They knew what television shows you watched. And they were running sophisticated computer models to profile voters, and it was every bit as sophisticated as the NSA was doing, run by many of the same guys, the same computer wizards. This is a game-changing event in presidential politics.
All right, but Jerry, so can the Republicans adopt to this? Can the Republicans get in on the game in time for 2016, or is it pass them by and they don't really know how to do it?
Well, they're probably going to try to get on the train, but you've got Boehner and the others thinking that if they just capitulate, and I compare this to what was going on in the 50s when you had the Nelson Rockefeller Republicans who thought they could just compete with the Democrats by the same message. Romney was so centrist in so many of his politics that a lot of white voters, and Romney lost because a lot of white voters stayed home. They just decided a lot of conservative voters. Romney got the evangelicals. What he didn't get was the conservatives who wanted a choice, not an echo with what the Democrats were saying.
Yeah, and I was remiss because when I also asked you how is it possible that more people turned out, more Obama voters that I thought were disinterested or not as passionate the second time around certainly came out, but also I was going to ask you, and it slipped my mind, what happened to the base? A lot of the base stayed home for Romney.
Well, and the base was saying, okay, look at the big issues. Romney, Obamacare, which was tremendously unpopular, should have been pounded. But, then the Democrats come back to Romney and they say, well, you did Romney care.
Right.
Well, unless Romney could really explain that issue and get into it, Benghazi, Romney dropped all of the issues about the war on terror because he didn't want to fight or appear to fight. They were riding on a lead. The only time Romney was ahead was after the first debate when he challenged Obama.
And then he thought he could coast. Listen, Jerry, we're up against the clock, top of the hour. The book, folks, What Went Wrong? The Inside Story of the GOP Debacle of 2012, How It Can Be Avoided Next Time. Must reading from WND Books from our friend Jerry Corsi. Jerry, thank you, my friend.
Always an honor and pleasure to be with you, Steve. Thank you.
It's mine. Thank you. All right, folks, when we come back, Lee Sweal hopefully will join us from Fox News, and Adam Thompson, defense attorney, and your calls on the Zimmerman trial on the Steve Malzberg Show.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
$3 a.m. and you're up again for the third time. It's not just affecting your sleep, it's interrupting your daily life. Frequent trips to the bathroom due to an aging prostate is a common concern, but you can now do something about it with Prostate Revive. Doctor-formulated Prostate Revive is an all-natural dietary supplement packed with 15 powerful ingredients, focused on improving prostate health by targeting the two main sources of prostate concerns, rogue testosterone and inflammation. And now, in this limited time radio offer, you can try Prostate Revive absolutely free. That's a free bottle, a 30-day supply of Prostate Revive, risk-free. Plus, if you call right now, you'll also receive our free report, A Doctor's Guide to a Healthy Prostate. Call now for details on getting your free bottle, plus our doctor's report. Call 1-800-659-REVIVE. That's 1-800-659-REVIVE. Don't be a victim of an aging prostate. Start getting the sleep you need and get your life back with Prostate Revive. Claim your risk-free bottle now at 1-800-659-REVIVE.
Hi, I'm Joan London, and if you're worried about your parent or a loved one living alone like I was, and you want reliable senior care information, then call A Place for Mom, the nation's largest senior living referral service. You'll get free information on assisted living, Alzheimer's care, nursing homes, even important financial information.
They had obviously researched every place, not just given me names.
Really?
They found me a place for what she could afford, and it was magnificent.
We're now very confident that she's safe, and they just helped every step of the way, and I can't thank them enough.
So if you're struggling to find reliable senior living information, call A Place for Mom. This is a free service, and you can trust them to help you.
If you're struggling to find reliable senior living information for your mom or dad, then call or go online to get the free help you need during this turbulent time. Call now, 800-908-1254, 800-908-1254.
Hello and welcome to your Newsmax Now update. I'm John Bachman. The Justice Department continues its review of the shooting of Trayvon Martin for possible civil rights violations, and there are new protests planned this week after George Zimmerman is acquitted of second-degree murder charges. In New York and Los Angeles Sunday, large crowds marched in the streets well into the night. In Philadelphia, about 700 people marched to Independence Hall to protest the justice system. And across Atlanta, there were several smaller demonstrations over the verdict. Meanwhile, Zimmerman is no longer being tracked by a GPS ankle monitor and is free to do what he wants. He's also allowed to get back his gun and carry it again under Florida's concealed weapons law. But his attorneys say he will forever have to worry about someone harming him. And in Egypt, Deputy Secretary of State William Burns gets the cold shoulder from both sides of the nation's divided leadership. Military officials, which get the lion's share of about $1.5 billion in U.S. aid each year, say the U.S. needs to recognize a new interim government. Meanwhile, leaders of the pro-Morsi Muslim Brotherhood say the U.S. helped topple the democratically elected president. Still, experts say there is little the U.S. can do as one of its closest allies in the region teeters on the brink of civil war. And in Washington, the Senate continues to squabble over how to proceed with presidential nominations. Some Democrats say the only way to deal with current gridlock is to do what Republicans are calling the nuclear option. Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid's plan would involve a historic shift, changing the rules on the number of votes needed to confirm executive branch nominations. That includes nominees to the Labor Department and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Currently, 67 votes are needed for approval. Reid wants to change that to a simple majority, just 51 votes.
If anyone thinks, since the first of this year, that the norms and traditions of the Senate have been followed by the Republican leader, they're living in Gaga land.
We have never changed the rules of the Senate by breaking the rules of the Senate in order to diminish the voices of individual senators.
The rule change could backfire on Democrats if Republicans regain control of the Senate in next year's election. And bombs kill more than 24 people in Iraq as political conflict between Kurds, Shiite, and Sunni Muslims grows deeper. The three sectarian groups are yet to reach a power-sharing compromise in the northern part of the country, and most of the violence has been linked to terror groups. Officials estimate that about 300 people have died this month in the violence, stoking fears that Iraq is sliding back into all-out conflict. And when your Newsmax Now update continues, buried alive, what it took to rescue a little boy trapped below 11 feet of sand. Plus, a Newsmax exclusive with former Senator Bob Packwood, why he says it's time to get rid of all of our tax deductions. Next.
In 2013, half of your friends, family, and neighbors may lose their jobs, all while you are robbed of 90% of your life savings, investments, and home's value. Controversial economist Robert Wiedemer, who was the only expert to predict the recession, has released a startling video with shocking evidence that the powers that be have tried to ban. But that hasn't stopped 50 million people from getting the truth. Watch it at AftershockVideo.com. AftershockVideo.com.
What is LigNet? LigNet is knowledge. LigNet is power. LigNet is global. Top-level officials, U.S. intelligence officers, national security advisors, foreign operatives, all reporting directly to you. What is LigNet? LigNet is confidential. LigNet is sensitive. LigNet is security. What is LigNet? They're the ones taking the world's pulse. If you're not in the know, you're not on lignet.com. You've been briefed.
3 a.m. and you're up again for the third time. It's not just affecting your sleep, it's interrupting your daily life. Frequent trips to the bathroom due to an aging prostate is a common concern, but you can now do something about it with Prostate Revive. Doctor-formulated Prostate Revive is an all-natural dietary supplement packed with 15 powerful ingredients, focused on improving prostate health by targeting the two main sources of prostate concerns, rogue testosterone and inflammation. And now, in this limited-time radio offer, you can try Prostate Revive absolutely free. That's a free bottle, a 30-day supply of Prostate Revive, risk-free. Plus, if you call right now, you'll also receive our free report, A Doctor's Guide to a Healthy Prostate. Call now for details on getting your free bottle, plus our doctor's report. Call 1-800-659-REVIVE. That's 1-800-659-REVIVE. Don't be a victim of an aging prostate. Start getting the sleep you need and get your life back with Prostate Revive. Claim your risk-free bottle now at 1-800-659-REVIVE.
And welcome back. A 6-year-old boy was trapped for nearly 4 hours, buried in a huge sand dune in Indiana. The rescue effort by first responders and construction crews took hours before eventually the boy was found inside an air pocket under about 11 feet of sand. He reportedly suffered no brain damage or life-threatening injuries, thank God, and is now recovering at a local hospital. And during a Newsmax exclusive with former chairman of the Senate Finance Committee and current member of the Fix the Debt Congressional Fiscal Leadership Council, Republican Bob Packwood, says if lawmakers really want to reform the tax code, they've got to get rid of every single deduction and start from scratch.
You've got to start from nothing and build up, rather than trying to deduct from what is.
And to see more of our exclusive interviews and content, stay with Newsmax.com. This has been your Newsmax Now update for July 15th. I'm John Bachman. Now here's the Steve Malzberg Show in New York.
Are you ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studios, this is the Steve Malzberg Show. Be a part of the action by calling 855-777-9660. That's 855-777-9660. Or email Steve at malzbergshow@newsmax.com. Here is Steve Malzberg.
Two systems went against George Zimmerman that he can't understand. You guys, the media, he was like a patient in an operating table where mad scientists were committing experiments on him and he had no anesthesia. He didn't know why he was turned into this monster, but quite honestly, you guys had a lot to do with it. You just did, because you took a story that was fed to you and you ran with it, and you ran right over him. And that was horrid to him.
All right, welcome back, Steve Malzberg Show, hour number 3. That was Mark O'Mara, the lead defense attorney for George Zimmerman, speaking after the verdict on Saturday. Joining us now, and I don't know how she managed to find time for us today. She's doing O'Reilly. She's been on TV all day. She's doing everything. Is our friend Lise Wheel, Fox News legal analyst, author of A Matter of Trust. Hey, Lise.
Steve, great to be with you.
What, you're going to do O'Reilly tonight?
Yeah, O'Reilly and Dobbs before that. Yes.
All right, so we'll be watching. And but okay, so you heard Mark O'Mara there talk about how the media had a lot to do with turning George Zimmerman into a villain. That was after the verdict, so he was talking about right along. I don't know if he expected what has happened since the verdict. In my view, the media has doubled down, full steam ahead. And so has the so-called civil rights movement, and so has the Justice Department.
Well, I don't think the media has much to do with that. The media is just reporting on what the Civil Rights Department or what Civil Rights Department of Justice are talking about, what the NAACP is talking about. NAACP right after the verdict, and I was here at Fox when it came in on Saturday night. Right after that, said, we want an investigation. Eric Holder came out today, and he didn't say so much that there would be an investigation, but it's pretty clear that the department is at least going to look at potential hate crime violations. I think it's a very, very tough burden for for the department to try to meet, and they would have to go to a grand jury, and that's sort of where everything should have started with the Florida case anyway, having gone to a grand jury, which, of course, the prosecutor never did.
Right. Well, what worries me about the Justice Department is you could indict a ham sandwich, is what they always say. And people... There's no one in America, I'm sorry, that isn't going to know about George Zimmerman if they didn't know about him before. So how are you going to get a jury pool or or grand jury that doesn't have a prejudice? And I think race will play a factor. But Eric Holder today said some things which many of the guests we've had leading up to you have found shocking. First of all, he called the shooting an unnecessary shooting death. He said that today to Delta Sigma Beta. He said the Justice Department shares your concern over the verdict. I share your concern over the verdict. This is the Attorney General of the United States talking about a verdict of a person who's now not guilty.
Right, who's been acquitted, exactly. No, it's highly unusual, but at least with the grand jury, and you're right, everyone will have heard about it. Any kind of grand jury that is convened in Florida will have, remember, it don't have to be in Florida, would have heard about it. But that's not the test. The test is whether or not even though you've heard about it, you've read the accounts, you've listened to television, all of that, you can still be fair and impartial in looking at it. And it's a different burden. It's a probable cause burden.
A higher burden.
Well, no, the grand jury is a lower burden.
Oh, not the grand jury. I'm sorry. I thought you meant civil rights violation charges. Yeah.
I think it's nearly impossible for the department to go that route because you would have to prove that Zimmerman acted out of racial animus.
Right.
That was the reason that he shot Martin. And all of the evidence that came out at trial was that no, I mean, he was acting in self-defense. I mean, the forensic guy there at the very end, the gunshot expert, said, look, Zimmerman's account sounds right. And Zimmerman's account being, I was flat on my back, my head was being bashed in against the concrete, and I shot out of self-defense. When you look at the prosecution's weak case and you meet that with Florida's very, very strong self-defense law, it really could have been no other verdict than what it was.
Right, and that was DeMaio, and
Right.
I know that because his brother Cinco is a good friend of mine. Anyway, that's how I remembered his name in my head. But then, I don't know if you heard this today because you've been running around, but CNN has been playing all day this, and they don't even know what they have, or if they know what they have, they're not even acknowledging how outrageous it is. But Headline News did an interview with all four of the prosecutors, including Angela Corey.
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to run tonight on Headline News, but CNN's been previewing it. And they ask Angela Corey, the interviewer says, I'm going to give you a name, you give me one-word answer. Says George Zimmerman. And we've been playing this. It just takes too long to do. And she pauses for like 20 seconds, and she says, murderer.
I knew that you were going to say that. I have not seen that, but just by the way you set that up, I thought, oh my gosh, she's going to say
She says murderer.
Wow.
They called him a liar. They called him all these things in that interview, and then when he plays this word game, she says murderer. How the heck does she get away with this?
Steve, you got me. I don't know. For a prosecutor to do that, I mean, what they should be doing is nothing now. They should be saying, going up to the podium and on, as they did Saturday night, and ending with, we respect the jury's verdict. That's it. It's all over. The fat lady has sung. I mean, that is it for the prosecution. There are no appeals. There's nothing. And they should not be granting interviews. They should not be talking about this case out of school, out of anything.
I mean, they called him a liar today. After the verdict, they said, who followed who? I mean, it's unbelievable. They're attacking him. You say the media is not, but not on common sense media. But if you go to MSNBC and half of CNN, what do you mean? The anchor talking. What do you mean it wasn't race? I mean, these people, they're full steam ahead. They want to see this man hanged.
Well, I have not been watching because I've been too busy.
Right, I know that. That's why I'm here to inform you.
Thank you, Steve. But so I have not seen any of that. You are telling me things that are maddening. Really, I can't comment on the other networks.
Right, I know, but I'm
just
it's just crazy stuff.
On the prosecutors doing that. If that's true, that is just. There are ethics violations there. I mean, I used to teach ethics and was a prosecutor, and boy, prosecutors are held to a very different standard than criminal defense lawyers. I mean, criminal defense lawyers, they're not there to break the law, but they're there to zealously, to their maximum ability, defend their client. And if that means calling a press conference, if that means using the media, they can do it. prosecutors, no. That is so against the prosecutorial ethics rule.
Right. Well, let me tell you, Alan Dershowitz, Paul Callan,
Yes.
Andy McCarthy, Tamara Holder, and now you have all, and 4 of the 5. I informed you guys of what she said, and the reaction has been the same from all 5 of you: stunned, shocked, and there's just, I don't want you to comment, but there's CNN playing this all day, and they don't even tout that answer. They just say, "Oh, we have an exclusive interview with the prosecutors," as if what she said is nothing. Do you believe, as some of the other aforementioned believe, that George Zimmerman now has a defamation suit against her?
Possibly. I mean, certainly a civil lawsuit against for malicious prosecution. The other thing that,
But I mean, based on what she said, calling him a murderer after the fact.
Yeah. And you brought up Dershowitz, for example, and he brought up the fact that, or at least he's positing, and I think it's maybe true, that they withheld what's called Brady material. That's exculpatory material that could, if not, free a defendant, but certainly the defense would want to know about it.
Well, at least look at the guy they just fired on. Not to interrupt, but I'm interrupting. The guy they just fired, for the IT guy who worked in Corey's office for the state, went and said, basically got himself a lawyer and said, we're withholding evidence here. The text messages, the pictures on Trayvon Martin's phone, never given over to the defense, and they fired him the day the case went to the verdict. I mean, to the jury. The case went to the jury.
Yeah, no, it is. That is not good. There should definitely be an investigation, and she should be looked into to see whether or not she withheld Brady material, why this person was fired, all of those things. And that should happen when we all calm down a little bit. That should happen. Remember Mike Nifong from the Duke lacrosse team?
Yes.
He lost his bar card.
Yes, absolutely, and that's another one that the so-called civil rights leaders were calling the civil rights case of our time. And Jesse Jackson, okay, I just had Alveda King on. First of all, Alveda King said that the NAACP is race baiting, and she disagrees with Jesse Jackson. You have Ben Crump and Jesse Jackson, and I'm sure many others, but those 2 I know for sure. I have the sound bites saying that Trayvon Martin is right up there with and is in a same sentence as Emmett Till and Medgar Evers. Emmett Till was a 14-year-old boy who was taken from his bed by 2 racists because he talked to a white woman and given a horrible death and put a wire around his neck and threw him in the river. And that's what they compared to publicly to Trayvon Martin.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah. I mean, as I say, both just.
I mean, it diminishes, Lise, doesn't it diminish? I mean, I'm white, you're white, so they could have their own opinions. Everyone could, but doesn't it? In my mind, it diminishes what Emmett Till represents.
I cannot disagree with you at all there. No, that's a very sad statement that you're giving me. And
see all the sadness I've given you since we've talked? I've brought nothing but sadness upon you.
I got to go to an ice cream cone.
All right, how's the book doing?
Matter of Trust.
Matter of Trust.
Doing really well. It's about a prosecutor out in Seattle, and she's got to solve a murder mystery. It's based loosely on a colleague of mine who was murdered in his home. So, but it's fun. It's a good beach read.
And it's not Bill O'Reilly.
And I didn't kill Bill this time. I gave him a break.
All right, Lise, we'll watch for you, and thank you so much for making time for us.
You got it, Steve.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
Lise Wheel, ladies and gentlemen. See, I love informing people. No, this is not a laughing matter. This is not a laughing matter. My opinion, when Jesse Jackson and whoever else, Ben Crumb, I don't know Ben Crumb. I don't know Ben Crumb. But Jesse Jackson is supposed to be a civil rights leader. Supposed to be, okay? And when he says, and he has said this before, off the top of my head, I'm trying to think backwards in my mind's eye and think, okay, what was the last case that Jesse Jackson was wrong about and said Emmett Till? And I remember at the time saying, Emmett Till? How could he do that? And here he goes again. When you start throwing those, I don't want to use the wrong word here, because the most horrific symbols, of racism in this country. I don't want to say iconic because I think that has the wrong connotation. What's worse? What's more symbolic of the struggle that blacks went through in this country in that time period than what happened to Emmett Till, a 14-year-old boy taken from his home and brutally murdered for daring to speak to a white woman, murdered by that woman's husband and his brother, thrown after they put the wire around his neck and hung him. They threw him in the river with a weight on his body. And Jesse Jackson casually sits there and says Trayvon Martin, Emmett Till, Medgar Evers. Are you kidding me? Medgar Evers murdered, assassinated, bullet to the back of the head. They laid in wait for Medgar Evers, civil rights leader of his time. A civil rights leader in his time, I should say. I don't want to make him sound like he superseded everybody. The civil rights leader just had come back. JFK made a civil rights speech that night. Medgar Evers had just come back had signs with him, and they gunned him down. Purely based on who he was, for racial reasons, for bigoted reasons. And you put Trayvon Martin? Again, a tragedy. A 17-year-old kid, a tragedy. It never should have happened. But we don't know why it happened. I mean, we do know why it happened. We know what happened. To take a kid who was beating the pulp out of somebody and got shot and compare that to Emmett Till, and you're a civil rights leader, quote unquote, something wrong with that picture. And I'd love to hear from African-American callers or listeners or anybody else. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about casually throwing? It's like when Rosie O'Donnell compared herself to Rosa Parks. She was the gay Rosa Parks. And when now this people were calling the NBA athlete who came out, they were calling him the gay Jackie Robinson. Are you kidding me? Jackie Robinson, what he went through? What has this basketball player gone through? And it's okay for the media to do that. It's not okay, but it's one thing. But if you're Jesse Jackson, you're going to sit there and say Emmett Till, and he lived through Emmett Till, and Trayvon Martin? Really? 855-777-9660, 855-777-9660 on the Steve Malzberg Show.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
Tired of calls, levies, and liens from the IRS or hiring others who don't get the job done? Call Wall & Associates and you'll never talk to the IRS again. The IRS has a program to eliminate tax debt, and Wall & Associates professionals are trained to maximize its benefits for you. You always speak with a live person with real support and real knowledge. We've helped thousands of taxpayers like you settle their tax debt with the IRS for a fraction of what they owe. We solve tax problems. Call Wall & Associates now. 800-574-6029. We have the professionals who know how to solve tax problems. If you owe money to the IRS, your tax problems are not going away by themselves, and the passage of time will only make matters worse. Act now, before it's too late. Call Wall & Associates right now to speak to a professional tax relief agent. Call 800-574-6029. That's 800-574-6029. Again, 800-574-6029.
If you are successful at what you do, whether you're a doctor, a lawyer, a business owner, or you have a great career, you understand the concept of protecting yourself. Well, are you protecting yourself, your family, and your assets with quality term life insurance? Consider these possible rates. A man age 45 non-tobacco user could obtain $1 million of coverage for as little as $75 a month, and this rate is fixed for the next 10 years. We specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. A man age 50 non-tobacco user may be able to obtain $500,000 of coverage for as little as $115 a month. And this rate is fixed for the next 20 years. We have great rates for smokers too. Call the Term Lifeline now. 800-430-1309, 800-430-1309, 800-430-1309.
Hey guys, do you know your testosterone level? You should. Each year, declining testosterone robs more of your energy, drive, motivation, and even your ability to perform in bed. Take control of your testosterone today. Write this number down because Progene, the leader in dual-action testosterone supplements, is now giving you a free supply if you call today at 800-592-4834. If you'd like to feel closer to 20 than 40 and get back that energy, drive, and confidence, call now to try Progene risk-free. Don't believe us? we'll even prove it works. Ask about our at-home testosterone test kits and see for yourself what Protein can do for you. Be one of the next 100 callers. We'll triple your order and send you a full 1-month supply of Protein for free. A $70 value for only the cost of shipping and handling. Call 800-592-4834 for details. Know your level and kick your drive back into gear with Protein. Call 800-592-4834. That's 800-592-4834. Again, 800-592-4834.
Do you have a motorized wheelchair or scooter that needs repairs and you don't know where to turn? Then call the experts at Precision Repair Network. They are the specialists in repairing all makes and models of motorized wheelchairs and scooters. You can call 24/7 and they will come to you anywhere in the United States. They'll give you a loaner to use until they return yours in perfect condition. And your repairs may be covered by your Medicare or your private insurance, so there is little or no out-of-pocket cost to you. If your wheelchair or scooter needs repairs, call this special hotline now and learn how you can get door-to-door service on your repairs at little or no cost to you. Precision Repair Network. They'll get you moving again. Operators are ready to take your call right now. 800-978-4813. 800-978-4813. 800-978-4813. That's 800-978-4813.
Sure, Steve might be a bit of a hypochondriac, but he never gets sick of breaking news. This is the Steve Malzberg Show. Call Steve at 1-855-777-9660. That's 1-855-777-9660. Here's Steve.
All right, folks, we are back. I just found out that Will went to Brooklyn College, I guess. What kind of show did you do in Florida? I mean, what kind of show did you do at BCR? Okay, Will and I, many years apart, both were at Brooklyn College Radio, WBCR. And WBCR came up because Mitch has finally hooked up his XM radio and is saying, I am on fire, and hearing it from the crowd. The hearing it from the crowd was my part. Anyway, yeah, I don't know about the barbecue, unfortunately, this year, Mitch, but hopefully we'll make it, but I don't know. But a long story short, yeah, I did sports at WBCR, Brooklyn College Radio, was student run, and Will, 100 years later, did a music show. So that's pretty cool. I just found that out now because of Mitch's call. All right, folks, there's a letter that CNN. So CNN is finally addressing. Wolf wants to know if he's shocked that Angela Corey. No, okay, good. The host has never seen that. Good. I hope Angela Corey gets sued, and I hope George Zimmerman takes her for every dime she's worth. I hope she gets disbarred. How dare! Now, look, I read you the list in case you're just tuning in. Alan Dershowitz, Paul Callan, Andy McCarthy, Tamara Holder, Jerome Kors, Lise Wheel. They're all shocked that a prosecutor, after a case, especially of this magnitude and this public interest, would go on TV and when asked to describe the defendant who was just found not guilty after your case failed and describe him as a murderer. My God, he's got some case against her, I would imagine. And he should take advantage of that case. And kudos to Alveda King. Kudos to Alveda King. And I want to hear from you folks out there. Come on. What did you think of the verdict? What do you think of this effort to get George Zimmerman? What do you think of this misrepresentation of the facts that's been going on and on? Whether you're in Atlanta or you're listening on XM or you're watching at Newsmax.com, please, 855-777-9660. We'll have a full segment after this break to take your calls. 855-777-9660. Emmett Till? Are you African American? You know who Emmett Till was? You know who Medgar Evers was? You think that Trayvon Martin is now a civil rights symbol, such as Emmett Till and Medgar Evers? We got a million things to talk about, so let's try to do it in the next segment of the Steve Malzberg Show before we hook up with Adam Thompson, defense attorney who was with us during the course of the trial as well. I don't think you found a better lineup of guests anywhere, and throw in Jerome Corsi as well on the election, and I think we had one of the best shows we've ever had right here on the Steve Malzberg Show.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
Newsmax Magazine is proud to present a special tribute to our 40th president, Ronald Reagan. It's a very special documentary and commemorative issue of Newsmax Magazine celebrating the centennial of President Reagan's birth. First, here's a video clip from the award-winning documentary, Rendezvous with Destiny.
We're in the midst of a springtime of hope for America.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
Impulses of an evil empire.
Tear down this wall.
I believe that together we can keep this rendezvous with destiny.
In the next several minutes, you will learn things about President Ronald Reagan that you've never seen, heard, or read before. Welcome to today's special Newsmax event celebrating the life and legacy of President Reagan. During this historic presentation, we will commemorate President Reagan's storied life. We'll revisit his 2 terms in office and recollect his proudest achievements and greatest challenges. Ronald Reagan's life reads like a fairy tale of success stories. He was an accomplished athlete, an honored veteran, a famous actor, the governor of California, and of course, our nation's 40th president.
He called himself a citizen politician and only entered politics when he warned government was gaining too much power. By then he was age 54, with a successful career behind him. Twice elected President of the United States, Ronald Wilson Reagan was a contradiction to some. Once a Democrat, then a Republican. A champion of smaller government whose own government grew. A fiscal conservative who failed to balance the budget. His critics mistook his affability for weakness, but behind the smile and the charm existed an extraordinary leader with unique skills and bold and revolutionary ideas.
We only had time to share just a few of the top defining moments in Ronald Reagan's presidency, but you'll get to see them all in Rendezvous with Destiny. By the way, the president's close relationship with the Pope is especially fascinating. You'll also learn how dealing with an alcoholic father helped shape Reagan's ability to negotiate. And if you ever wondered what the leader of the free world likes to get for the holidays, well, you'll find that out as well. So let's review today in this free offer. We are sending you a copy of Ronald Reagan, Rendezvous with Destiny, and the collector's limited edition of our issue commemorating the 100th anniversary of President Reagan's birth.
Right now, when you subscribe to Newsmax Magazine, you can own both the DVD and receive the special Reagan 100th Birthday Commemorative Edition. That's $25 in bonus gifts when you subscribe. Go to newsmax.com/Reagan13 to subscribe today. Join the millions who read Newsmax Magazine every month.
Do you owe the IRS? Do you have unfiled tax returns? Have you received a wage garnishment or bank levy? Maybe a lien has been filed against you. OMG Tax can help you with all your IRS tax problems. Don't wait another second. Take action now. Call my team at OMG Tax. Honest and professional, we don't make false promises. If you owe back taxes, or if the IRS is garnishing your paycheck, you need help now. OMG Tax can help you get your life back to normal. If you're serious about handling your tax matter, call OMG Tax now and get the peace of mind you deserve. Don't let the IRS take your next paycheck. Stop waiting and call our team at OMG Tax. OMG Tax has a straightforward, no-nonsense approach and has helped many Americans resolve their IRS nightmare. Call OMG Tax now.
Call 1-800-255-6485. That's 1-800-255-6485. 800-255-6485.
This is not your typical Screamfest talk show.
No.
This is the next generation of talk radio. Here is Steve Malzberg.
prosecutors suggesting the 29-year-old was a coward for not taking the stand in his own defense.
I pray that he would have the courage to take the stand, but as we all well know, he's got the right not to, and he made that decision.
He was afraid to take the stand.
The proof is in the pudding. Did he take the stand?
And while prosecutors say they respect the jury's decision, they told ABC News what they thought really happened that night, that Zimmerman pulled his gun when Martin tried to get off of him, killing him in cold blood.
Nobody just gets a gun out and shoots. Even trained police officers, when they're on the ground with a suspect on top of them, they can't get their guns out that quickly.
I think there was a struggle. At some point, Trayvon became aware of the gun and was backing up, and George Zimmerman shot him.
What, these are the Three Musketeers, or the Three Stooges. Actually, there's four Stooges. Welcome back. Steve Malzberg with you. This prosecution team. He was a coward. Was he afraid to testify? Well, proof is in the pudding. Did he testify? I've never seen it. These people, how dare they? They tried their best to convict George Zimmerman, and he was found not guilty. Like we've been told on this show today, they should have gone away. Or if you want to go on television, help lower the level of tension in this country and say, hey, we did our best with the evidence we had. Obviously, it wasn't enough for a jury, and the verdict needs to be respected, and George Zimmerman is not guilty. What we are seeing now is the public lynching of George Zimmerman by the prosecution team that couldn't convict him in court. In the aftermath of the verdict, they're going around to try to lynch him figuratively and raise, in my view, racial tensions, which would raise, in my view, the pressure on the Justice Department to go after him and try to lock him up that way, so that these losers on the prosecution could be vindicated in their own sick, twisted minds. Can you imagine if this... I keep hearing, how would you feel if Trayvon was your son? And the answer is devastated, heartbroken, and out of my mind with grief, and it would never end. How would you feel if George Zimmerman was your son? How would you feel if George Zimmerman was your son and he had been acquitted, found not guilty, and then the prosecutors who brought the case and lost went around and called your son a murderer on national television? How would you feel about that? I've never seen anything like this in my life. This is a disgrace, and those four stooges should all be sued, calling him a coward, calling him guilty, calling him a murderer. How dare they? Wow. All right, let's get to, we do have a phone call. We have Mark in Georgia, Atlanta. He hung up. All right. Well, he was there. I presume listening on newstalk1160.com. Let me give you the phone number again, because we do this so rarely. 855-777-9660. 855-777-9660 if you want to weigh in on any of this. You know, Joe Scarborough. All right, Mark is back. Let's go to Mark. Hey, Mark. Welcome to the Steve Malzberg Show. You're listening on News Talk 1160, sir.
Yes.
The talk of the town. Good. I'm glad you're listening. What can I do for you?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I agree with a lot of things you're saying, but then when it comes to the case in particular, you know, some things I don't necessarily agree with, but, you know, I take more of an agnostic or a neutral approach here, because that's just it. I wasn't there. I wasn't on the jury. I didn't take time to, you know, examine all the evidence. And I will say, you know, as, you know, a former Marine and somebody who's cognizant of, you know, rules of engagement, and I'm not talking just in combat, but, you know, just in general, you know, I've been a firearms owner for many years. And I've never been in any kind of a circumstance where, you know, I've ever felt like I should pull a firearm. Of course, I don't carry, but, I just think there are things that can be done to mitigate and minimize, that use of a firearm. And I don't know that was altogether unnecessary use of a deadly weapon like that. So that's where I disagree. But where I totally agree.
Well, let me stop you there for a second. God bless you and thank you for serving. As a matter of fact, not to toot my own horn, but I tooted my own horn at 2 National Guardsmen who were walking through the streets of the city. I hope that's not a fire alarm. Walking through the streets of New York City while I was driving my car, was stopped at a light, and I honked the horn and I opened the window and it said thank you, and they appreciated that. I knew, and I actually felt a sense. I actually felt a sense of emotion come over me just by thanking these guys who were in uniform in 90-degree heat. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. So thank you for serving. But with all due respect, sir, what we do know from the evidence is that, first of all, in Florida, self-defense, you don't even have to be hit. Okay, if you perceive your life is in danger or that you are in danger of great bodily harm, you have a right to shoot. But this guy had his head smacked on the concrete, had his nose broken by a taller young man, and you're telling me he should have done something else? What should he have done?
Well, I'll give you
and then you say you've never pulled out your gun, but then you admit you don't carry. So where does that come in?
But here's the thing.
You don't have a gun to pull out.
well, listen to me. Part of that is because the liability issues and so forth. But I mean, that's just it. I'll give you an example. Okay, if somebody were to break into my house, okay, obviously, I might be justified in using deadly force. Okay, I might even be afraid of my life. But my point is, deadly force should always be a very last resort. If there's some other way.
Well, sir, what other way, based on what you know of this case, what would you advise, or what would you, looking back, if you could go back in time and whisper in George Zimmerman's ear during the struggle, after he had been sucker punched on the ground, having his head punched on the pavement, had a broken nose, and yelling for help? What would you have whispered in his ear to do, as opposed to saving his life with a gun? Tell me, what would you have whispered in his ear?
I would like to find out exactly how he ended up in that situation. But
no, time out. Whoa, time out. Now you're bringing up another issue, sir. You said there must have been another way. And I'm telling you, I'm asking you, we are playing a game, and you have the luxury of going back in time. He has not pulled the gun and fired the shot. He's on the bottom. His nose has been broken. His head is bleeding. He's being punched. He's yelling for help. And you say there had to be another way. And I'm saying to you, we're back in time. You have his ear. Whisper in his ear, watch George, do this. Do what? Instead of pull the gun out. Tell me, I'd like to know.
Well, if he's able to pull the firearm, apparently he wasn't that subdued. I would make that point, but
what would you tell him to do, sir? I ask you for the 7th time.
Well, number one, use some restraint here. I mean, don't be quick to pull a trigger.
Okay, so how many more times would you say, hey, George, let your head get bashed a couple of more times. Get punched a couple of more times. Is that what you would tell him?
No, well, but, the point I was going to make in agreement with you, I think that, posterior to the verdict, it is very dangerous. I mean, I don't know that the OJ verdict was altogether wise. I mean,
right.
I still would favor prosecuting and re-prosecuting OJ Simpson. So I think the greater point that needs to be defended here is the prescription against double jeopardy. Okay.
Right. But there should not be double jeopardy. They couldn't make this case. They're not going to make a case with a higher standard to meet.
Right. And so I wholeheartedly agree with the idea that it's dangerous to have people in such high positions of
make these kinds of statements. But Mark, listen, I got another call, so I want to get to it. But I thank you for calling. I hope you'll call me again. But when you say you would have told them, don't be so fast to pull the trigger. Look, he didn't even have to be hit legally and could have legitimately, under the law, pulled the trigger. He was hit repeatedly, had a broken nose. The medical people testified he might have had a concussion at that point. If he felt like he was going to get killed any second, what else could he have done? Wait until he get hit again? Anyway, thank you. It's food for thought, Mark. Thank you, and call again. Let's go to Tom in Utah. Tom, you watching at Newsmax or listening on XM?
Listening on XM.
All right, well, sir, let me just tell you, XM's going to be going away, unfortunately, August 30th. I hope you'll listen to us, get an app. You have an iPhone?
Yes, we do.
All right. Download the Newsmax TV app. Newsmax, Newsmax TV app on your iPhone, and you'll get to watch and listen to the program every day that way. But thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's great. You know what? You're the only person that's made any sense at all. I've been watching, we watch Fox News in the morning and CNBC and everything, and everybody misses the point. The man was laying on his back and hitting his head. The kid was hitting his head on concrete a couple of different times. That's self-defense. All right? Anybody in their right mind, I got a carry concealed permit, and I'm 69 years old. I have never shot anybody. Hope I never do. But if a man's on top of me, whether it's a kid, 17, 18 years old, and he's pounding his head on the concrete, it only takes once to kill you. It doesn't take a dozen times.
And your nose is broken, right? And and then you hear remarks also like, well, he had a bullet in the chamber. Well, what good is carrying a gun if you're not going to have it loaded? I mean, of course he had a bullet in the chamber. These nonsensical, ridiculous things. He got out of the car when he was told not to. No, he was never told not to. People make things up. People put their own their own biases and lies into the case. But the facts were presented to a jury. And, during the case, I heard all these one in particular, Sonny on CNN, who just thought the prosecution was McDreamy and McExcellent and McWonderful, and she kept saying that, and she thought these women, these mothers, the prosecution was really hitting home with these women who were all mothers. And then, of course, the case that she thought was lost, and now there had to be something wrong. Something's wrong. Well, you can't have it both ways. Listen, thank you for calling. Please do. I don't want you to lose the show. Download the Newsmax TV app, okay? I think we lost him, but I appreciate it. All right, when we come back, defense attorney Adam Thompson will join us to sum up the whole day here on the Steve Malzberg Show.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
Bad credit card debt happens to good people. Credit card companies lure you in with low introductory rates or low minimum payments, and before you know it, you owe thousands of dollars in credit card debt. It has happened to millions of good people just like you. But here's the good news. Thanks to a powerful program now approved, anyone with $2,000 or more in credit card debt can cut their credit card payments up to half and even reduce or eliminate interest charges altogether. That's right. Our nationwide nonprofit program is helping U.S. residents cut their credit card payments. Call 800-613-3159 now. The call and information are free. We've helped over 500,000 people with their credit card debt, and now we can help you. Call 800-613-3159 to see how this powerful nonprofit program can work for you. Bad credit card debt happens to good people. Get free of credit card debt today. Call 800-613-3159. That's 800-613-3159. Again, 800-613-3159.
If your prostate is giving you problems and your doc says it's just part of getting older, be wary. Renowned physician and author Dr. David Brownstein thinks this is baloney. He's discovered a link between aging and prostate health and believes prostate concerns do not have to be an inevitable part of aging. That's why he created Prostate Revive.
Hi, I'm Dr. David Brownstein. I personally formulated Prostate Revive to include the most essential natural ingredients available to help promote a healthy prostate gland and optimal urinary function.
The producers of Dr. Brownstein's Prostate Revive are so thrilled with the positive feedback from satisfied customers that for a limited time, they are willing to send you your first month's supply free. Plus, call now and you'll also receive Dr. Brownstein's special report, A Doctor's Guide to a Healthy Prostate. For details on getting your free bottle, call 1-800-596-REVIVE. That's 1-800-596-REVIVE. Take control with Prostate Revive. Call now while supplies last to claim your risk-free bottle at 1-800-596-REVIVE.
Obamacare. President Obama's massive health care law is taking effect this year. With over 15,000 pages of regulations, few even know what it means. Now, the Obamacare Survival Guide by Nick Tate gives you the shocking facts about this law. It's a step-by-step guide on how you can protect yourself. Already the New York Times bestseller, every American needs to get the Obamacare Survival Guide and find out about the new taxes, hidden fees, fines, Medicare changes, business rules, and why doctor shortages are likely. Donald Trump says the Obamacare Survival Guide is a must-read for anyone worried about getting good health care for themselves or their employees. So get the Obamacare Survival Guide. It's at bookstores or get our special offer at Obamacare911.com and you'll save $15. Go now to Obamacare911.com. Obamacare911.com.
This is a referral service. Calls will be routed to an independent referral insurance agency.
Do you know the number one cause of bankruptcy? No, it's not losing your job or running up credit card debt. It's not even divorce. It's medical costs. If you and your family don't have health insurance, just one serious illness or accident could be financially devastating. But now there's good news, really good news. A health insurance hotline has been established to provide health insurance for all Americans, even uninsured Americans with pre-existing conditions. Now anyone can get health insurance even if you have a pre-existing medical condition. I repeat, now anyone can get health insurance coverage. Call now for a free no-obligation quote on affordable health plans available to you. Again, this is a free hotline for anyone, even if you have pre-existing conditions. Protect you and your family from sudden unexpected medical costs. Call the free health insurance hotline right now at 1-800-910-3470. That's 1-800-910-3470. Call 1-800-910-3470.
Are payday loans ruining your life? If you have 2 or more payday loan cash advances, listen closely. You may be eligible for a program that payday loan companies don't want you to know about.
This program will get payday loan companies out of your bank account and put an end to the payday loan nightmare. Call for free information and find out if Payday Loan Support Center is right for you. Payday loan companies usually trap you into paying rates as high as 700%. We understand payday lenders' tactics. Don't let them take advantage of you anymore. All you need is 2 or more payday loans to qualify. We can help even if you're behind in collections or have bad credit.
Internet payday loans qualify for this program as well. So call 800-250-5084. That's 800-250-5084. The call is free and the consultation is free. Don't miss out. Call for your free information on payday loan relief. 800-250-5084. That's 800-250-5084. Again, 800-250-5084.
Microphones hot. Satellite link established. Studio lights illuminated. Cameras rolling. Audio and video encoders firing 1s and 0s. Internet stream is streaming. The most technology advanced radio show is on the air. Here's the captain of this enterprise, Steve Malzberg.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. Final segment of today's show. It has been an amazing show. Thanks for those who have called in. Hope we do more of that tomorrow. We're joined right now by our friend, defense attorney Adam Thompson. Hey, Adam, how are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on.
It's my pleasure. First of all, I want to ask you about this. We had Alveda King on earlier, and the NAACP has said that this verdict is nothing more than a modern-day lynching. You have Jesse Jackson saying that Trayvon Martin will be up there with Emmett Till and Medgar Evers. You have the prosecutor, Angela Corey, on Headline News today, when asked to describe George Zimmerman in one word, calls him a murderer. What's your response to this verdict aftermath?
Well, I think it's reckless conduct. I think it really is a huge slap in the face to our jury system, which was given the opportunity to work in this case. A jury was chosen of impartial individuals to review the facts and evidence of the case and come back with a verdict they found fair and just under the circumstances. They obviously took a long time doing this, over the better part of 15 hours, reviewing all the different evidence they had, and they came back with the verdict that really did represent what the evidence presented was. I wasn't surprised that the prosecution would have sour grapes, because they tried a highly publicized case and they came out on the short end of the stick, and they looked bad during the presentation. As I said on your show many times before, they dropped the ball, their witnesses went in, they ended up being turned into defense witnesses, expert witnesses were incompetent and ill-prepared, and the long and short of it was a complete debacle. The defense did a brilliant job. They brought out the facts that they needed to, and they really established that George Zimmerman did have a viable self-defense claim, and the jury believed it. And that should be how it ends. The jury heard the facts. They have a verdict. To now go on to another whole level of, well, let's keep it going. Let's now see if there's a federal case that can be brought, and now put him up there with the biggest people in civil rights history. It's just bringing this too much into the forefront when it shouldn't be.
Absolutely. And it's one thing for Jesse Jackson to do it, but for and even for Eric Holder to say we're looking into it, but for the prosecuting attorneys to go on a TV show and call him a coward and say the proof is in the pudding, he didn't take the stand, and he's a murderer. I mean, I've never seen anything like this.
Again, that's also very reckless behavior, because particularly as an attorney, you know what the rights of a criminal jury trial process are. Everyone has the right to make a decision to either testify or not testify. If you choose not to, you have a constitutional protection not to testify and incriminate yourself. You could sit there and just say, I think the prosecution failed to do its job. They didn't meet its standard and burden of proof, so I'm going to sit here and not testify.
Right.
I think they didn't do what they had to do. And that's the end of it. To say that someone's a coward for exercising their rights, people have to remember these are rights that protect all of us. This is how innocent people stay out of jail. If you take away these rights, they'll slowly erode for everybody. And then there's going to be a whole bunch of different protests out there where all of a sudden, now guess what? Let's force people to testify at trials.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
It is insane. We're talking to Adam Thompson, defense attorney here on the Steve Malzberg Show. But going back to Eric Holder, he didn't just say we're investigating, even though they've been investigating since day one, and the FBI, as part of that investigation, has already found nothing to conclude that there was racism or racial intent or anything that would meet the standard of a federal civil rights prosecution. But today, Eric Holder, I don't know if you're aware of this, speaking before a Delta Sigma Beta, which I believe is a very large, prestigious fraternity of black women, said that called the shooting an unnecessary shooting death, and said that I share your concern over the verdict. He said the Justice Department shares your concern over the verdict, and I share your concern over the verdict. So much in the manner of Angela Corey, he's not saying I accept the verdict.
And that's reckless. I mean, I will give it to President Obama, who at least came out and said the jury has spoken, respect the verdict, let's have peace and calm, and everyone move on. This is when you need real leadership to step up and say, listen, we all don't agree with outcomes of jury trials. There's always going to be different people that fall on different sides of the verdict. But, does that mean you go and riot in the street and cause harm or violence against others? No. First Amendment rights are great. You want to protest? You want to speak out? You want to blog? You want to write about it? Put signs up? Do all of that. And I encourage it, because good discourse and dialogue is how we all learn and grow and prevent cases like this from happening in the future. But to take it to a level of violence, to spruce violence from an incident that involves violence.
Right. Well, nobody that I've heard well, I shouldn't say that. Tweets that I've seen certainly have threatened and urged this kind of thing. Even implications from which giant wide receiver who dances in the end zone?
Cruz.
Yeah, Cruz has said that the hood, it'll only be less than a year before the hood catches up to George Zimmerman. I mean, these outrage. One player for the Atlanta Falcons said that all the jurors should go home and kill themselves. I mean, just outrageous stuff. But nobody that I've heard has certainly called for any violence. In fact, quite the opposite. But it's just a disgusting situation. And people say, like I said before, what a tragedy, what a horrible tragedy for Trayvon Martin and his family and his parents. I can't imagine. But people should also say, well, how would you feel if your son was acquitted of murder, found not guilty, and then the prosecutors and the lawyers and the media all went on TV and said he's a murderer?
Exactly. I mean, both families have been through it. I couldn't fathom the death of a child. I have a 3.5-year-old myself named Jack, so I love more than anything. And I couldn't even put in my mind him having any kind of harm.
Of course
let
not.
alone.
Of
You know what
course
I'm saying? So everyone out there should feel for the Martin family. Everyone should have their thoughts for the Martin family and hope that they find peace and can move on. But the Zimmerman family, imagine having your son facing life imprisonment.
Yeah.
Right? And the rest of his life, even after this. Look at every other notorious case that has been in the press in the last
And you know
years.
what? You know what, Adam? And the whole family is living under threats, too. Listen, I'm up against the end of the show. Thank you, my friend. This isn't the end of our relationship. This will be the beginning here on the show. We'll talk to you again soon, I'm sure. And take care.
Thanks.
All right, take care. Adam Thompson, ladies and gentlemen, defense attorney. It's been quite a day, and I'm sure this will continue, and hopefully an injustice will not be done by the Justice Department on the Steve Malzberg Show.